Hey, Jen, would it be okay if we started? Call the meeting to order. Let the record show that this is a special City Council workshop for the budget held on Monday, July 31st. All members of council are present. The press has been duly notified. Would everyone please stand and join me in the Pledge of Allegiance? Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Council is going to remain standing for a moment of silence. You're welcome to join us. In that moment of silence, please keep Anthony White, Sergeant Anthony White, in your prayers, who passed away this past Friday. Him and his family, his 3 boys and his wife. Thank you very much.
On that, we didn't hear anything about the funeral yet?
We did. We got an
We
email
did?
today.
Okay, good, because I checked my mail, but,
Saturday.
okay.
Item number 1 is the workshop for the budget for the 2017-18 budget. We are going to go general fund and then do the other funds that we have, such as the Beach and Swim Center, TCUD, and tourism, events and tourism, and stormwater budgets. We'll be going through those. And we have staff here if you have any questions regarding an issue or an item on the budget. We won't put them in a chair and interrogate them, though.
Wow.
So we'll do our best. The Holy Spirit hangs out there. Elijah.
Claude Rains.
Charlie.
All right, starting with the general fund, taxes, based on the assessment report we get from the York County Tax Assessor's Office, projected at $5,092,894. Your license fines and fees, almost at $3 million, 2.944 million. State shared revenue is the local government fund from Columbia. Small, modest uptick there from previous 2 years up to 172, 128. Your recreation revenue at 554,859, and then other revenues coming in at 156,449, giving you revenues, projected revenues of $8,920,630. Just to illustrate where your money's coming from, 57% of it is in taxes, 33% from license funds and fees. Your rec revenue makes up 6% of your total revenue, and then state shared revenue, and then other various revenue items coming in to round it out. On your expenditures,
Can we go back to revenue for 1 second?
yes, sir.
The Piedmont lease, the building rental, what's the contract on that?
We've got 1 more year on that contract
And they are currently at PD.
at PD, correct?
Would they be willing to move over to the new fire station?
Have asked that question and not gotten a response at this point.
And if they do move over to the new fire station, is there potential for us to increase that?
If we're able to put it indoors, yes, sir.
And there's,
Or with the new contract, we can tell them we could request.
but there's no room to put it indoors if we have to, or if they want us to, is there?
Potentially, but it's something that we'd have to reconfigure some things as far as truck placements and things like that.
Okay.
We've got the base pretty full over there at this point.
So that's on your radar that you're gonna, okay, perfect, thank you.
Or if we're asking revenue questions, can I ask them now
Sure,
as we go
please do.
along? Just remind me, Charlie, item 3, penalty revenue, what is that?
That's people paying their taxes late,
Okay?
and so it's penalties collected by the county and pushed to us
And automobile tax revenue comes from
from
the county as well, okay? Hang on. Business license revenue, we expect that to go down a little bit, business license revenue.
The main reason for the small tick down on business license revenue, Tom Goebel on Barbie Staples ran an analysis. Currently, right now, we're going by the 2009 NAICS code. If council adopts the 2016 NAICS code, which is the classifications, it actually reduces the total revenue coming in. Your realtors would go into a higher classification, but a lot of your contractors, general laborers go into a lower classification. Walmart actually goes into a lower classification, believe it or not, just based on the way the NAICS code shakes out. The Municipal Association is requesting that all cities stay current on the NAICS code as they're working through those. Well, the bills have gone back to committee at this point, but they're trying to get everything more uniform from city to city around the state. So you would have by going to the 2016 NAICS code, it is a slight dip, as you can see, in what the projection collected is based on what those, we looked at those top payers for this year, and based on what their new codes would be next year, that's where we came in with the number.
Even with more businesses in the area since last year. That's disturbing. State shared revenue.
That's the local government fund that comes from Columbia.
Okay.
They give us a sheet on that.
Sorry, got to cut my mic on.
For document production revenue, we have 8,700 already this year, and we're only projecting 2,000.
This is,
probably hard to predict. But
That one's hard to gauge. Basically, what you've got going in there is, people going into the police department and paying for records. People submitting FOIA requests. And there's a charge associated with it based on staff time and reproduction, things like that. So, we could either be underscoring it grossly here. It's just, that one's really hard to judge. So we just look at historically, kind of where we've averaged out, and that's what we're projecting going forward.
And Bob, when you're looking at averages, which I assume you're looking at for just about everything,
Yes.
are you using 3 or 5 year?
I usually go
or
back 5 years
You
usually.
go back 5
Yep,
years?
I usually.
Okay. Alrighty, thank you.
I had a couple of questions. Regarding sponsorships,
Mhm.
are we tapping into new, or is this because Donald
Jen, are
Park
you
is
on?
coming online? Sorry. Since we're basically doubling what you expect
Well,
to bring in?
we've changed our sponsorship program. Instead of just going out and soliciting for, hey, you want to sponsor a T-ball team or a soccer team, things like that. We're getting folks to sign on to our community sponsorship. It's something we started 3 years ago, as part of with the Mayor's Cup. So that as we are bringing these sponsors in, you're not just sponsoring the golf tournament and the community events. If you're at one of those upper levels, you can also be a sponsor of one of the sports teams. We've also got sponsorship money over in the events tourism budget as well. And this is based off of what we're currently doing, so that's why you've got the uptick there.
Great. And I noticed kind of like a little pattern throughout the different budgets regarding the rental revenue. It seems that all of them are down based on what was expected. Are we getting feedback that it's not during hours that they want, or we do not have the facilities, or it's not kept to their maintenance levels? Are we getting anything like that, or it's just lack of desire?
The rentals for here, we have seen are extremely hard to predict because there's so many civic groups that get to use it at no charge.
Right.
And they're using it during business hours. Park rental, usually we see that uptick in
The summertime.
July, August.
Okay.
But there's a lot of facilities out there now. And it's just, we don't, in this regards, we don't really market it a whole lot. It's just, because it is a public park, and, primarily those rentals are coming from Windjammer. More so than, really, they can only rent Windjammer or Pitcairn.
Right.
And it's just, we don't advertise it and push it a whole lot. It doesn't mean that we can't going forward. We're not getting, there was a time where we used to have a wedding every weekend at Windjammer. Small gathering, things like that. And they're just, that hasn't been there for a few years now. So, Whether or not it's just people finding other venues or it's,
Not getting married.
but haven't gotten feedback in regards to, oh, the facility was horrible, we don't want to come back ever kind of thing. I mean, we're not getting that kind of feedback, no, ma'am.
That's fantastic. Is there any reason why we can't just remove 3000-7003 since we no longer have the dog tag passes as of last year?
Yes, that won't be on there at the August 21st meeting.
All right, great. And regarding the parking tickets, I know a lot of people think we make a lot of money off those. So I didn't know if you could explain how a certain portion just leaves.
Parking tickets actually don't, they stay with us. It's the other tickets where 60% of them, because this is actually an ordinance violation. It's the UTT, the Uniform Traffic Tickets. About 62% of that, of the revenues collected actually goes straight to the state. It helps fund the operation of the Criminal Justice Academy, where all your law enforcement from around the state gets their training from.
Okay, and why are you anticipating, or how are we anticipating a decrease in parking tickets for this year versus next year, yet we're already year-to-date far greater than current?
To be quite honest, to see what how this conversation was going to go tonight. Obviously, if council elects to fund a full-time person there for Saturdays and Sundays, your peak days during the summer and things like that, if they're doing their job, you're probably not writing a whole lot of tickets because they're turning them away and sending them elsewhere. If we decide to, or if council elects to give direction that, PD, just keep enforcing, try to stay on top of it as much as you can, then yeah, that number probably can go up. But I would caution, my opinion only, I wouldn't boost it too much, because it really is kind of hit or miss. I mean, right now, our officers are writing tickets, the judge is enforcing it, and you can see you've got almost $6,000 in there as of July 26th. We could operate the exact same way next year. Maybe not as many people are coming down there without the tickets. Maybe more people are buying the parking stickers. That's one where I'd much, again, my opinion, and we'll go whichever way council wants to on this. I would keep that as a modest number, instead of, it's not something you really want to
Well,
budget high for and
yeah,
Less
miss
about,
by
this
any
is less
means.
about the money and more
Right.
about
Right.
Yeah,
other things,
So,
I
I mean,
think,
if-
probably.
yeah.
I mean, do we want to have that conversation now or during
Nah.
the
No,
expense portion?
I was just trying to understand how we go from budget of 2,500 to decreasing to 1,500, yet we've
Got revenue
Collected,
of
yeah.
almost
Yeah.
6,000.
basically doubled almost doubled so far.
More than
But this is not just parking tickets for Windjammer,
That is
we're
correct.
alluding to. This is the entire
City.
city.
Correct.
Yeah.
Okay,
Yes, ma'am.
all right. Thank you.
Anything else on revenue?
Decrease in cell phone tower rental, is that
That's
a
a-
contractual number, or is?
It's a slight uptick of,
Slight
yeah.
uptick.
Oh, well, I was
Goes up
looking this
4% each year,
Okay.
4% each year.
Is that all right?
yeah. Yeah, per lease agreement, that will increase 4% every year that we've got the lease. Yep.
Oh, there was one other question. We're just about 400,000 low on what we anticipated for the budget. Are there things coming in that
Oh,
we
still, yes,
believe that are?
it's only 10 months,
get
we're
us
just short of
to-
10 months, we got 2 more
Okay.
months to go for the year, so we
Alright.
anticipate getting that, yes.
Okay, great.
David? Next.
All right, on the expenditures, and for, just briefly, what I'd like to do is just kind of go through the bottom lines for each department, and then kind of touch on a couple of highlights, and then if there are specific questions for departments, we can jump back into those. Council at $34,511, court at $218,344. Admin at $744,521, development services at $535,823, public works at $806,948, law enforcement $2,661,305, fire services at $1,368,464, Parks and Rec at 544, 569. And then your non-departmental expenses, which is where your bond debt is, trash and recycle, things like that, at $1,884,188, leaving you a fund balance transfer, so to speak, at the end of the fiscal year of $121,959. That is a balancing number of revenues over expenditures to zero that out at $8,920,630. Just to kind of show you a spread, your public safety, as usual, is going to make up 45% of your budget. Your non-departmental, the big chunk of that is your debt payment on the bonds, as well as the trash and recycle expense. Admin at 8%, Parks and Rec and Development Services coming in at 6%, and council at less than 1%, with a 1% of your operating transferring into your reserve fund, which right now is at about 32, 33, 34%.
Yes, it is.
Currently, so it would add to that. Just a couple quick things on this budget. It does project an additional $426,125 in revenue, which is good. This is the bad. Workers' comp, retirement, group insurance increased by approximately $290,000 in expenses. Group insurance initially came in at a 29% increase. We were able to negotiate that down to a 15% increase. Retirement, we have no control over whatsoever. There's been issues with the state retirement for a number of years. This is something that General Assembly has pushed out. The employer's contribution as well as the employee contribution are both going up. And there are two retirement systems, one for your general employees and one for your public safety. So your general employees is a 9% increase, and your public safety at 9.75%. And workers' comp at 46%. And we are in a pool with Smith and Smart for the entire state on that. So that's the biggest hit, and that's why throughout the budget, it's pretty much just stand pat. No increases. It does envision 3 new hires in fire department. And this is due to ISO requirements. That would be 1 new worker per shift. And what you've got in the budget envisions hiring them 5 months into the fiscal year. So that would be 7 months. The impact would be for 7 months of this fiscal year. Without bringing those in, when they reassess on the ISO, Chief, we go from a 2 to a 6 potentially on the ISO. And it has to do with the number of folks that have to be on a truck rolling out at the time of a structure fire call. Those are the only new hires envisioned for any department throughout the entire organization. It does envision replacing 3 of the older high mileage patrol cars, but that won't impact your 17-18 fiscal year budget. It does envision keeping street maintenance, park maintenance, your landscaping, all the same as we currently are. And it does envision a 2% cost of living increase for employees, but no merit increases. Based on the numbers that we've looked at, even with a 2% cost of living, the vast majority of the employees will still take home less in their net pay because of the increase in retirement and the increase in group insurance. So even with a 2% cost of living, they're still going to be under what we've already taken the hit on the retirement because that starts with the state's fiscal year. So that started in July. The group insurance plan year starts in September. So that's when we'll take the hit there. The 2% would start in October. Gets them back a little bit, but it doesn't make whole. But this is a conversation that I've been having with department heads for the past month now. Just trying to mitigate that as much as we can, while at the same time making sure that we're doing what needs to be done in the city and functioning providing the services that, that are expected. So that is the general fund in a nutshell. And at this point, be happy to go through any questions. Mayor, do y'all want to go department by department, or you want to go council member by council member? How do you want to do it?
I guess council member by council member would be fine.
Okay.
And if you don't mind, I'm gonna throw it in there first, because I really just have one question.
Okay.
Potentially, we have a special election
Yes.
coming up. We currently have $2,500 in the account for the current election in November.
Correct.
There's potentially a special election 13 Tuesdays from that.
Correct.
How do we budget for that now? Do we budget for make it $5,000 instead of $2,500? And if it doesn't happen, we're $2,500 to the good. What
Complete,
does the rest of council
Yeah.
feel about that?
completely up to y'all.
Yeah, it was on my note,
Yeah.
that we should probably budget for it.
Budget for it
It's
now?
No big deal.
Okay.
Well, you budget for it, and then you,
If you don't
like you
spend it.
say, if you don't need it, you put it
Okay.
someplace else. It's
Right.
nickels and dimes at the end of the day.
Well, then step down.
Ow.
Step down from
What is,
council.
what is that?
That way we don't have to
said
have a
we're gonna
special
need it.
election, save $2,500.
Ooh, ouch. Now we're getting into it now.
Okay, so this was a friendly conversation.
But it's a thought.
So we
Follow your boss,
make that
right?
I can absolutely make that change if
Yeah, I don't-
that's what y'all want me to bring back, August 21st, I can do
I
it.
guess
That's little
we have.
stuff. I'm
we-
worried about the big stuff.
We budget $2,500, and that's the election that we pay to York County
Correct.
for everything that happens in November.
Right.
So that's, the alcohol sale on Saturday, on Sundays, pennies for progress, all of that stuff is on that ballot.
Correct.
So I think I would also like to ask the question of the Board of Elections, if we just have
Special
a
election.
special election for the city of Tega K, what is that charge?
We can do
Is that charge $2,500, or is it some minimal fee? And I will throw out that when I ran with a special election, I asked the poll workers to volunteer,
Yeah, they did.
and they all did. So that may also be something else we could talk about, too. So I just want to throw that out there as well. So all employees will get a 2% cost of living increase, effective October 1st. whatever
Well, it would be the
paycheck.
first pay period of
Pay
October.
period,
yes.
October 1st, starting favor for 1st. But there's no merit increase.
No, sir. No merit increases we've been able to do in the past, no, sir.
And your basis for that is the increase in all of the other things, items.
Well,
that part
first and
of that
foremost, as
decision?
we put together the budgets, we want to make sure that we are able to provide the services and operate at the level that that we need to. And then from there, I mean, we don't want to, in my opinion, we don't want to go into this with a zero fund balance transfer, because that means that we're 100% certain that every penny that we've projected on revenues is going to absolutely be there.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, if you go in at a zero budget and you miss one thing by $5,000, well, then it doesn't work. So we want to build in somewhat of a cushion there. Yeah, I'd love to be able to pay everybody more, no doubt about it. But our priority has to be on running the city and making sure that we're providing the services at the level that the residents expect. And I think that's the approach that your department heads take whenever they put their budget requests together. Yeah, it is unfortunate. I think Dora, help me out, the retirement increases, that's across the next 3 years, is that correct?
I think it is.
Yeah, it's across the next 3 years. Group insurance, we're going to continue to look at what we can do there going forward. Potentially even moving out of the private sector and moving on to the state health plan in the future. ways we can try to control those costs as much as we can. And the workers' comp thing, continue to work safe, continue to do safety training. But at the end of the day, we're at the mercy of the Smurf and Smith boards.
Right, you're in a pool, so we could be 100% safe and still bear increases. I mean, I think, and I hate to even utter the words, but, in the healthcare world, I mean, I think we do need to start looking at alternatives. I really obviously don't want the city employees to have to pay a portion or a larger portion than they have in the past, but I think it's something that we're facing in business, across the board. And so if we can find at least a more cost-efficient way to handle it, I think that's something we certainly need to do. If that means we have to, go to the state,
State health plan.
the state health plan,
How
Whatever
do we
it's
currently
like.
handle, and I guess Dora, you want to come up here to the hot seat? We can ask you a whole bunch of questions here.
she's like, no, I don't know.
How do,
Put your mic on,
yeah,
just so.
how do we currently pay our employees in regards to their benefits? Do we pay 100%? Do they pay 100%? Their dependent coverage, can you throw that out for us and explain that to us?
Well, currently, the city pays 100% of all employees
Okay,
and 50% of dependent coverage for any employee that elects a dependent coverage.
okay,
And that is employee spouse, employee children, or family.
okay.
Do, do state employees, like others, do they have, a, penalty if the spouse could get coverage by themselves and they don't? I'm
No,
just
in the
curious.
private sector, I pay $100,
I know,
$200 a month because I insure my wife and she could get
gotcha,
coverage through
yeah.
her.
So no, doesn't happen with, I just don't know, it's
I'm
not
that
changing the
familiar
budget,
with
I'm
the
just
state
curious.
plan. We plan on looking more into it.
Yeah.
No, I just meant in whatever you have right now, there's no penalty, I mean, the private
No,
sector, we
no.
all pay a
Not
penalty.
right now.
Okay.
No, not at this time, but we are looking at every option, and ways to control those costs. And I will say that, over 50%, the majority of our, employees are employee only. You don't have, I don't want you to think that, okay, we've got 95 employees and all 95 are on employee family and things like that. You've only got,
It's 57% are single right now, single coverage.
Yeah, single coverage.
57% of
Mhm.
employees.
I was gonna say, it would be good to know what it really is, so if that's really it, so that's still a large portion though, I mean,
It is.
I guess, and the other question, with the health insurance that I get in the private sector, they have penalties. And one is tobacco use. If an employee chooses to use tobacco, they have to pay $50 more a month. And I guess that's not something that's offered or
Currently,
required
Go.
or,
currently, we do not have a surcharge, is what they call it, a tobacco
right.
surcharge on our plan.
okay. Do we know if that's something that's being talked about? Is that? and
that is something that we are talking about.
We are
yes.
talking
We
about
are
that.
talking about, yes.
So then we can go outside, we can impose our own surcharges if we.
Well, just imposing the surcharge doesn't necessarily mean that it's going to lower the premiums anymore.
No,
And those are
I
the
understand.
questions that we're
Yeah.
asking at this point.
But that $50 a month surcharge for tobacco use could go towards reducing the cost for the city for that we're still gonna have to pay whatever it is, but if we imposed a tobacco surcharge, we could take that money and put it to lowering our cost that we have to pay, theoretically.
and Charlie, repeat again, the health plan year begins September?
For the plan that we're on now, yes, ma'am, it begins in September of each year. If we make a switch to the state health plan, that would actually it would change the plan year to July.
So we're not doing anything before next July?
We can't get into the state health plan
Right.
before July of 18, that is correct.
Okay, so
So it could, by doing so in what would be mid-year for our fiscal year, could in fact bring in additional savings to the budgets that you're looking at now with lower premium
Possibly.
rates. Mhm.
Okay.
David?
On healthcare?
Yeah.
Or just in
On
general?
Just really here, anywhere, I guess, yeah.
In general, I just wonder if you can explain if you can explain the rationale of the cell phones and the expenses on the cell phones, and who gets it and
I would say that any of our employees outside, whose jobs are primarily out of the office, out in the field, are on they're on a cell phone that is flip phone. Basically, I mean, they're on the old flip phones. Yeah, our maintenance guys, things like that. Department heads we put them on a cell phone. They're responding to emails, responding to phone calls, things of that nature outside of the office, outside of office hours. Folks that are your 8:30 to 5, Monday to Friday, that's it. They're not on one. I mean, we're not just passing out cell phones with the, hey, welcome to the city kind of thing by any means. But we have negotiated really good plans with our carrier Verizon. I guess I don't.
Well, I noticed the Beach and Swim Center has a cell phone.
That is just a percentage. The employees that are in the Beach and Swim Center, the vast majority of their allocated expenses are in Parks and Rec. So we take a percentage, that same allocation of what their salaries are, and put that in Beach and Swim Center too.
Okay.
Same as Public Works and
Stormwater.
Stormwater.
Some of our sales are allocated percentage-wise between departments.
So we divide up that expense as well. We do the
They
same
work-
thing with their group insurance and things of that nature.
Because they work in different departments.
Gotcha.
You good? Jen?
I was actually curious about that, because we're talking about over $51,000 for cell phones. How many people are we talking about here? I'm not saying, first of all, that they do not need a cell phone.
Right.
Right.
I'm just, is this something that we reevaluate? I mean, I'm even also looking at the the copier lease. Like, have we looked at it recently to see and spend?
Yes.
I mean, I can't believe how
I
much
can
we
tell
spend
you,
on
I
these
can
things.
tell you when the copier leases that are old leases, when they expire, we will be very happy, so that we can get rid of them. We've still got a couple more years on those leases. They're not being renewed. We are moving towards a more efficient, more effective way of operating and have been for the last probably 2 years, 3 years, in regards to that. Don't disagree at all on the copier leases. They're not at the point now to where yet, but will be probably 2 more fiscal
Yeah,
years,
I think late in 2018, we could start looking at,
being able
changing
to,
this lease.
Okay.
changing out of those leases, getting in,
we've been looking at this.
yes.
Okay.
So when you say you're looking at this, there was a time when every employee had a printer in their office as
That is
well.
correct.
So what you're saying with the copier lease over the next couple of years, you're getting away with it. Does that mean that when a printer lease
Expires, we're not
expires
renewing
or a
it.
printer breaks, we're not replacing them? They're going to a community copier?
Correct.
Okay.
We've got all of downstairs City Hall right now just on one copier, with the exception of finance for check printing. And we have reduced and begun that reduction upstairs at City Hall as well. And we will continue that process as those leases, as we can end those leases. We are downsizing the amount of those things that we have so that we can be a lot more efficient in that area.
That only makes sense.
Yes.
Okay.
Those leases are ones that Bob and I, they drive us batty. But in regards to cell phones, I mean, you've got approximately 90 employees. All of your police officers have them, but depending on what level within the department they are, will dictate whether it's just your basic flip phone or a smartphone. They're all unlimited data type plans. I think we're paying, Tim can probably help me here. Tim?
Can you hear you?
50K, a
What
little
about
more than
40-something bucks a month or something
per
like that?
employee, yeah.
Hello, greetings.
How are you?
Yeah, okay,
Um,
now,
I'll
yes.
try
exactly.
from memory, but there's about $48 for a smartphone and $38 for a flip phone.
I don't think that includes taxes, though. All day.
No, that's the
That's the
monthly
base-
fee,
base
base
fee.
fee
That's your base fee,
for
yeah.
each one. And then there's, the police department has the G-Tax and the
Right.
wireless connections and some other
Yeah,
things.
for the in-car tablets.
Yes.
Yeah, so we've got, that's in there, in that portion, the mobile data is in that cell phone, and then you've got the lease on the actual tablets. So, I mean, do you cut back on them? I mean, right now, I think
No,
we're
we
about
wouldn't
as
ask them that.
efficient
I'm
as
just
we
saying,
can
is
be.
Yeah,
Just
I-
asking what
Yeah.
it is.
Trying to understand.
$51,000 is a lot of money.
Right,
Right.
but now I
And
understand
you've
how
probably
many
got-
employees are using them, and I do understand over half of it actually goes to our police department,
Right.
which has a better piece of equipment, they need that, and we all agreed on that when we
Right.
approved
Yep.
it.
We did do an
So-
audit on that last
Yeah,
year,
we,
or the
we,
year
we did a
before.
telecommunications audit 2 years
And,
ago.
Brought it down some, and as we upgrade, the cost for each cell phone actually goes down.
Mm-hmm.
How much do you pay for your cell phone a month?
Oh, no, my husband pays that bill. I pay the mortgage.
You know, it's automatically deducted out of my, it's like a bank
Yeah.
draft, so I don't even know.
200, but there's 5 of us with phones, so.
I mean, I'm
and
paying
some of us have dumb
120 for 2.
phones, So,
I'm like 300 for 4.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I'm 400 and I've got 5 phones.
You only
You know,
have
it's
3
how it-
people.
You only got
Does
3
the dog
people.
have one, or?
My outlaws are on our plan, so that's the
but I
only.
have a
But
good rate
we
then.
weren't, we appreciate your looking at controlling expenses, but we were not saying, you know,
Okay.
Yeah.
you need to cut down your cell phones. We were just, I was just
Understand,
curious
yeah.
of
Yep.
Yeah.
what they were
Completely
used for.
understand.
And it makes sense, because otherwise, to dispatch all the people already out there, you'd have to get some kind of truncated
I don't even know
Motorola
what you would
system. It'd
do,
probably
yeah.
be 60,000 or 80,000 to buy, and then whatever after that, so.
When the county went to the 800 megahertz system was when we moved away from the radios and like your maintenance trucks and things like that, because it was just too costly to upgrade to stay with that system. And now we're fighting that battle with fire and PD because Motorola is they're discontinuing service on the radios that everybody has. Now everybody's got to get in their new radio. I mean, it's a smart business plan on their part.
Yes.
And we want everybody to buy the new ones, so we're not gonna fix the old ones anymore. So it's a lot of fun for us, but, yeah, it's, I think Tim does a pretty good
Thanks,
job
Tim.
managing on that, so, thank you.
Yeah.
Ryan?
How about, oh, sorry.
You got any questions?
I just have 2 quick ones. Public work expense, street maintenance.
Yes, sir.
They projected 100,000, we're only at 27, that's great.
We've got,
Something big coming up.
bids going out, or getting ready to come in, for a lot of patching around the city. So when you look
What's your
at your.
average?
This time of year, it's gonna be spent.
In September, when you look at September and you're looking, in September and you're looking at the August financials, you're gonna see a nice little jump there.
Uptick there. And then with law enforcement, dispatch services, just the increase there, 25K-ish.
Yes, sir. And Chief, you wanna come up and talk to that just briefly, please?
You thought you were out 3.
Yeah, that's close. So earlier this year, Alan Brandon, who's a director over communications, contacted me and said that based on some levels that he's seen with increase in calls for service, that he was going to add a third personnel, which is in the contract that we originally did. And after negotiating with him through not adding a third person to what we were doing, we basically came to a conclusion of the cost for service that they incur. So over the last 3 years, I think, is that correct? They had increased the 2 manpower that they have, and we had not paid that cost, and so we came to a midway agreement not to pay for a third person. And also the kiosk that we're getting in the lobby is going to have a reduction in that, so I felt like it wouldn't, the number that they saw would not be there.
It's also, and it is built into the contract to where if they have to add personnel, because as Chief was saying, due to the calls for service, that we would have to pay for that full employee. which did a good job negotiating that down. But it also provides that if they are giving a cost of living to those dispatchers, that we have to pay a percentage of that. And it's a small percentage. And then the other one's the upgrades on the New World software that's in there as well, right?
Licensing,
Yeah,
yes, sir.
licensing for the dispatch software that interacts, or interfaces, I should say, with our software in the vehicles for the tablets.
Thank you. Anything else,
Chief,
Brian?
stay.
Oh.
I did that just on purpose, no. If
We wanted to skip you.
I get a nosebleed, you will.
Dottie?
No, this is a question, it might be either for Charlie or for the chief. We have SLED here at a budget of 7,500, expenditures to date 27, and nothing budgeted for next year, so I was just wondering why that went away. Again, reduced expenditures is a good thing, but.
We actually, just to simplify the accounting process with bills coming in and coding and everything, we moved the SLED item up into IT expenses. So 2 line items up, you can see that goes from 10,000 to 22,250.
And what are we getting?
Well, your SLED, basically what makes up that is we've got to replace the server over at PD. In that 22,000, you've got 3 replacement PCs.
Yeah.
You've got your patrol folks basically below the rank of sergeant that are sharing 2 computers, I believe, and then you've got the sergeants that all share 1 computer, actual desktop computer. Those 3 have reached end of life. And then SLED is requiring some additional firewall upgrades. And that you've got a little over $7,000 just in firewall upgrades, about $4,500 of that in your computer replacements, and $10,000 in your in the server replacement.
And is the capital outlay budget, is that part of that, or is that something else?
No, your
under law
capital-
enforcement?
You want to hit the capital outlay? You want me to?
It's reduced
That's
from
fine.
the current, but,
Capital outlay has the radios, which we just talked about. We have to have replacement radios. Those are at $5,000 apiece, unfortunately. We have use of force software that keeps us in line with accreditation. We also have CALIA software that also keeps us in line with accreditation, and an in-car camera. So that makes up those budgets. Basically, it's as cut as it could be.
and in terms of the patrol cars that we want to replace, or you're asking to replace, 3 of them that are high mileage, how high is the mileage?
So we have some, and I have one that I can go look on exact. We got some that are up to about 125 to 150,000 miles. So every year, you're going to have to do 3 to 4 to purge on the police department if you're looking at a 6 to 7 year plan. The one thing, the longer you hold on to the vehicles, the less you get for the resale for the general fund. Also, if you hold on to them longer, you end up mechanical issues.
Do we
Yeah,
get,
one of the biggest issues we have out of that patrol fleet are the Dodge Chargers. Yeah, I think every law enforcement agency in the country switched to them. They look sweet. They're great vehicles.
I hate them.
They are absolutely horrible from a maintenance standpoint. I mean, and every agency that bought them is facing it. I mean, we've had 4 or 5 where the fan blade just disintegrated, went right through the radiator.
Oh, nice.
So
Wow. So,
we have 4 square miles on the peninsula, okay? And then we go to Walmart and we go down to Lake Ridge and everything. How is it that we're getting 150,000 miles on a vehicle with that small of a community?
Yep.
Can,
So you're driving the vehicles 7 days a week.
right?
So shift A works Monday and Tuesday, and they're assigned a vehicle. Shift B works Wednesday and Thursday, they're assigned the same vehicle. So they're operating 7 days a week, 12 hours a day. So there is a lot of wear and tear and a lot of mileage that comes on them through patrolling. So we are not like York County Sheriff's Department, Rock Hill, several Clover, that have take-home vehicles for every officer. We actually split them in the budget so that we're sharing the vehicles so that we can save money for the taxpayers here.
I mean, Go ahead, Trish.
but,
So making trips to Moss Justice.
yeah, that's my question.
Yes,
Moss Justice Center.
yes.
Making those trips.
Now, that's a hike.
Because if I understand correctly, Fort Mill is thinking about getting out of the jail business,
Yes, sir.
next year.
That's what I've been
If I
told.
understand correctly. So, which means that what we currently do is we take the people that we apprehend and we bring them over to Fort Mill when they allow us to, when they have the room, or we take them to Moss Justice down in York. So if Fort Mill gets out of this jail business in September of 18 is what I understand it's happening, what is that gonna do to us as far as our fleet? You know, because we're now gonna have to take everybody to Moss Justice Center. Can you explain that process a little bit to me?
Yes, so this impact is huge. This is probably one of the most significant impacts I can explain. If we have 3 to 4 officers working on a shift, depending on vacation, sick, or whatever, and let's say we have 3, if you arrest 1 or 2 people within a 2-hour time frame, it's going to take 2 to 3 hours to take them to the Moss Justice, meaning we will have one person covering the entire city, plus we are adding wear and tear.
Well,
There
it's
is
not just, it's not 3 hours just taking them there.
Yeah,
It's round trip, booking.
round trip booking
Back in the city.
process.
We
Yeah.
figured that.
Yeah, so the entire process will go from basically a 45-minute process right now, and we hope that if it's not a significant crime, that they make bond and get out in Fort Mill, so we do not have to transport them to the Moss Justice Center. But if they close, then we are looking at some serious changes in how we use our manpower and what we do.
So that's the reason why we have these vehicles with the high mileage as well as the fact that we're using them 24 hours a day.
So when we take someone to Fort Mill, if they don't bond out, we have taken one trip to Fort Mill and then come back, but then we go to another trip to Fort Mill, then go to the Moss Justice, and then if they don't make bond at the Moss Justice and have a court date, then we got to go back to the Moss Justice and pick them back up and bring them to court here. So there's a lot of round trips involved in that.
Okay.
What is the age of the vehicles that you're talking about replacing in this budget year?
Anywhere, we have some 08s, some 09s, and I think we have some 2010 is what we're looking at.
What are we looking at in terms of vehicles? We're changing them out, apparently.
Going to what we've been getting recently, the SUV Fords. The Tahoes, Chevy priced themselves out on state contract. Yeah, they just really did. But we're seeing a lot better from the Explorers as far as the wear and tear and the maintenance, having the tablets in the vehicle, and them not basically being sitting on the. If you look at the difference in the tablet mount and everything in the Dodge Charger versus the Ford Explorer, night and day difference. Night and day difference. Gas mileage really isn't a whole lot of difference between the two. The Explorers, they've got the Interceptor too, the SUV Interceptor. But basically, that's what we'd be looking to go to, continue to go to on the fleet, based on what state.
Don't we get grant money sometime? Haven't we gotten funding?
It was once.
Just once? No.
And none of the patrol vehicles or public safety vehicles were eligible for that grant.
All right.
I got a question. Hold on, Chief. And
Yes,
I'm
sir.
sure you got a great answer to this, but I'm not telling you how to do your job either, but just something I thought about. If we've got 4 patrol people on the street and then somebody gets arrested, we got to take them all the way to Moss Justice Center. It's going to be out 3 hours or so. And it seems like the most important thing is to have that patrolman on the street all the time. Isn't there somebody else in the admin part, or is there a supply officer or some other officer that can do that hauling and leave that patrolman on the street?
So typically, no. So after 5 o'clock, so most of our arrests, a good percentage of our arrests, probably 60% is at nighttime hours. So the operations and then typically with the admin staff, they're usually doing something that they're tied up on as well. That usually is a scheduling thing where they've scheduled something out. So I've never seen a department do that before that I know of.
I mean, would it even be safe?
I
I
ha-
wouldn't, if I was,
I ha-
I wouldn't transport somebody that you've arrested, if you asked me.
Well, I thought
mean,
all
We're gonna
police
give you a
officers,
Prius.
Now,
I think what you're referring to
the-
is like a lieutenant or somebody that's in the
van.
office,
Waiting on
not
the
on
academy.
patrol. Right.
yeah, now that, there's, even with a person waiting on the academy, they haven't had the training, and if somebody was wanted for some serious crime and they're transporting that prisoner, they have not had the training to defend themselves. So there's a lot of things that come into play there. Something that should be looked at that, in moving forward, is the East Side Justice System. This is the largest growing area in the county, Fort Mill, Tega, and York County. And the smallest part of the county is over in York and Clover.
they have
And everybody is having to transport people there. There should be a temporary facility, not a jail, somewhere along the I-77 corridor. It's as important going forward in the next 5 to 10 years as I could say anything that we're moving forward towards. But one of those things that is important with that is a van transport. And if the sheriff's department transported, but there's a whole bunch of different things that add into that with York County.
Thanks.
I knew you'd have a good answer, see?
Anything else?
Anything else, Donnie?
Nope, thank you.
Thank you. Anybody have any thoughts that have come up since in regards to the expenses?
I do, but I can't remember where I saw it.
I may have some
We
other.
got rid of the holding tank that used to cost us like $175,000 a year.
T-Cud, yes, sir.
Different fund.
It's in the
And
T-Cud book.
didn't I see someplace where we're still hauling sludge?
You're always gonna have sludge hauling,
Always gonna
for
have
solids. Yes, sir. You're always gonna have that expense.
So
but
that's
in
not the thing I
T-Cud
used to
budget.
think of when it rained. We used to have to haul
Pump
the
trucks.
pump trucks that were all over the place.
Right.
That's a different animal.
Different type of sludge hauling.
Oh,
yes, sir.
different type of sludge. This is grade
Different
B sludge versus grade A sludge.
When we get to T-Cud, we'll get Mr. Jolly up here and he can
Tell me
explain the
sludge
difference in
is
sludge.
I must have missed out on that class.
I had a question regarding the maintenance, and I know that you said that landscape maintenance is not being decreased, but under Public Works, it's going from 90 to 15,000.
Yes, ma'am.
And, I mean, I do see, your contract lawn care is going up slightly, but, I mean, I see the trail maintenance is going down, and also under Parks and Rec, the park maintenance is also going down. So, is that for, I also saw a great grant that, for the, that was received, so is that PARD funding helping offset some of those costs that you were anticipating?
Couple quick things. I'll start with the landscape maintenance. A lot of that 90,000 was envisioned as and was spent as one-time money in regards to ripping out some of the old and putting in perennials. The 15,000 basically allows us to replant the annual beds and things like that. I mean, we had a big chunk of that 90,000 was redoing around the number 9 tee box there at the Windjammer TK Drop. Well, now that project is completed and you've got perennials in there, we won't have, other than replacement plants should something die or something like that, shouldn't have to spend dollars on that. Just labor and some staff time. Same as with those other landscape maintenance items. So what you see there with the 15,000 isn't taking on any new projects. It's keeping everything
It's
looking
true
the way
maintenance.
it looks now.
Okay.
Yes, ma'am.
All
On your park maintenance, the reason for the slight tick down there, 10,000. Historically, park maintenance has been $40,000. We brought it up for this current fiscal year because of the projects at Pitcairn. Now that those have been completed, we looked at it from a cost saving standpoint. Obviously, if council wants to move that number back up to $50,000, we'll use it, absolutely. But in talking with Joey, we felt like, or he felt like that if we stated, we did have the opportunity to bring that back down because those projects were done. Trail maintenance. To be honest with you, that was just a cost saving measure. Bring it down, try to cut it a little bit. So just cut it in half. just looking for ways to try to save money in the budget. Yeah, it's definitely a line item to where, I mean, could we go out and do $5,000 worth of asphalt replacement on the trail? Absolutely. Yeah. Are we okay if we just spend $2,500 on, replacing some of the bad asphalt areas on the trail? Absolutely. Yeah, it just really depends on what level does council want it at. So we were just looking for cost-saving measures, ultimately in there. PARD project, I think we're gonna be getting some funds, for this coming year, for this, fiscal year we're talking about, that we'll be putting into the, repairs to the parking lot at Turner. That is, in significant need of some TLC. The PARD project expense you see here, we'll be getting 80% of that back. We're finishing up the, that bench replacement project that we got funds from the state for. So as soon as we finish up that, probably here in the next few weeks, we'll be submitting for reimbursement. So I would say by end of August, 1st of September, 80% of those dollars will come back.
Okay, great. I think one of the things that I've been hearing a lot from residents is that they like the way things are being maintained now. So seeing the numbers, as long as you, speaking for myself, as long as you feel that we can still adequately maintain those, then I would think that this would be fine. I don't know what everyone else thinks. I know it was a big priority. We put a huge amount of money about 2 years ago.
Oh, yeah.
We changed incredibly and got a lot of those projects done. But, does everyone think they're going to be able to keep it at the level we are currently?
Based on the conversations that I've had with the department heads, yes, ma'am.
Okay.
But it absolutely doesn't envision, I mean, with the exception of street maintenance, I mean, obviously, it's gonna be new projects every
Yes.
year. Yeah, it doesn't envision doing anything new, over what was done this year. So it's again, just kind of maintaining. Yeah.
Well,
and
maintaining's
and
good,
moving
but
forward,
I
yes.
suspect in a few
It's
years,
not
we're gonna
a step
be-
backwards.
So if we did
Encourage
something
that.
new, that would be more, that wouldn't be maintenance, that would be like something on the capital improvement plan or something like that? If we wanted to do new
Potential.
trails?
Depending, yeah, if it was new trails, something like that.
That wouldn't come out of this budget, that'd be a separate.
That's correct. Yeah, we would identify that, depending on the size of it, from an expense standpoint. More than likely, we would show it in the non-departmental, if it was a one-time project type thing, we would show it down in non-departmental and have it listed as to what that actual project is and what the funding council approved for it and what was spent on it, yep.
I had another question regarding non-department expenses. I'm not saying it wasn't needed, the fire station study, but I'm just curious why it's under non-department expense versus the fire department.
That was the cash that council approved to spend towards the building of the fire station. It started off as fire station study because we were doing the soil sampling prior to releasing the contract and all that stuff. This just represents the cash that was spent out as part of the construction. And if you look up, it's actually the last in the list, bond payment. That's where those bond payments will be towards the fire station. I mean, we can
Oh, I
move
see.
that. I mean, that, you're not gonna have
I see
that
that
as
now.
you see on that,
That's just up there.
even though it's called fire station study, that was the
Bond
cash that council did approve to spend towards that, in addition to the bond that was issued.
Okay, and then the city hall building expense, I thought we had completed the whole project.
That's your maintenance on it, on the HVAC, and things like that. Because you've got TCUD, you've got court, you've got admin, you've got several departments that are all in City Hall. Trying to figure out where to charge that, which department gets what percentage. I mean, when you're talking about, the HVAC maintenance.
Okay, so it's maintenance, because
it's just- it's the maintenance
of
of the
the
building.
building
Heating, filters, et
expense, I
cetera.
thought it was some new construction or
No, ma'am.
something.
No,
Yeah, I had the same question.
no, ma'am.
Okay,
So can we change that to building maintenance as opposed to building expense?
Sure.
Sure, no problem.
So it's a little more understandable.
for trash and recycling, it's definitely going up. I know that we got a little bit of a reduction this year about how much we're being charged. So is this because we have a bunch of new homes on the?
No, it's because the
thing?
rate's going up.
Rates are gonna go up, okay.
Y'all heard me say earlier, we started off with a 29% increase on group insurance. So they would negotiate down to 15%. They're getting a 47% increase on their group insurance, plus the tipping and hauling fees have increased, both at the recycle center where they take the recyclables, as well as out at the landfill. The recycle increases he has actually eaten for the last 2 years because they kept telling him it was temporary. After 2 years of temporary, he can't eat it anymore. Right now, this envisions the rate going from 14.41 to 15.16. He is working his numbers as hard as he can, even to the tune of, if y'all recall, I think it was in January, we moved the folks off the peninsula onto everybody gets picked up on Monday for trash. He may change that schedule just to try to save us some money. He's still crunching numbers, but we could come in slightly under $15 per house per month. But right now, what the figure that you've got is based off of the 15.16 per house per month.
That
Okay.
figure being $710,000.
Correct, $710,000.
Let me test my memory for a minute.
Yes.
We got a new contract from him for what, 3 years? 4
I'd have
years?
to go back and look. Yeah, something like
To get that
that. Yes.
contract, he lowered our rate by, I think it was $1 per resident.
Correct.
Yep.
And then he comes back this year and raises it. Is there something in the contract that says?
It actually gives him the ability to do a fuel surcharge and CPI increases, none of which they've ever done.
Okay,
So,
so fuel is down. I'm paying less this year than last year. And
well, you got to
CPI
look at the fuel index for diesel fuel for the southeast. It's not just what's at the pump right now, is how the contract goes.
Seems like a bait and switch. We got.
I mean, I'd like to see us take a
Tipping charges, all those other
little
charges.
bit of a look on that.
it's
I
like,
mean,
we're
and,
gonna give you a
and,
good deal. So if you sign our contract, then we do, and boop, the next
And-
year he raises it right back up.
and tell us what the numbers are in terms of fuel and all that. I mean,
All of a sudden, we didn't get such a great deal.
this, without regard even for the contract or what you're saying, just trash recycle services, in my mind, is one of these things we're really gonna have to start thinking about going forward. I mean, if we're at over $700,000 a year, I mean, I foresee that, you know, before too long, it's gonna be $1 million a year. And so I guess one question I have, and you may or may not be able to answer it right now, is what is going on around us in terms of cities and towns and counties? I know Charlotte, obviously, you pay for your stuff to get picked up in most places, the resident does. But how about,
Inside of
Around
municipal
us.
limits, I mean, obviously, the county does not offer it. Every city manager that I've talked to, they all charge for their trash and recycle, and they charge it on a monthly bill. Rock Hill, it's on your utility bill. Fort Mill is on your utility bill. I think Fort Mill is charging about $17 per house per month for residential trash and recycle. I'm not sure Rock Hill's rates, but they've got power, water, sewer, trash, recycle, stormwater all on one bill each month.
and I don't know if, I mean, even if we, you know, talk about changes going forward, again, when I lived in Charlotte, which was a long time ago, I mean, we just got the bill directly from the pickup, the trash pickup company. I mean, you paid your own bill, it didn't run through the city or through the county or anything else. I mean, my thought being that as a municipality, it seems like it would be an administrative headache to have to be responsible for collecting that as well. The point is, I mean, you know, as a
If you did it
resident
as a
here, I'd
standalone,
rather
yeah.
not be charged for it, but the realities are that in the years coming, we're gonna have less inflow of monies because we're not gonna be building as much and all of that. There's not a lot of places to expand and grow. We're not gonna have a lot more business license revenue, so we're gonna come down to, unfortunately, at some point in time, tax.
Indirect tax.
Yeah, or a direct, we may have a tax increase too, at some
Right, but
point.
if we take this 710 out of the budget now
Right.
and we start charging the
Right.
resident the $14.33.
It's a $30 swing.
That's,
per
that's,
resident per
that's an
month.
indirect tax.
Yeah, we can call it what you want. I mean, my point is that we may be coming to a time in the not too distant future where we have to start reevaluating these things. You know,
I think
as I
T-
said, as a resident, I prefer that it just keep going the way it's going.
I think
You know, that
TGK is
works
one of the
for
few
me,
communities
but-
that don't charge.
Yeah, so, you know, and the reason I'm bringing it up is more to raise awareness. I mean, I don't think any of us, I don't think about it every day or every week. I just see the trash being picked up. I don't even think about who's paying for it. But $710,000 out of the city of Tega's budget is a lot of money. And so I'm just putting it out there. I'm not recommending we do anything with it.
Well,
But-
I brought it up for the same exact reason, and part of it is because it's been brought to our attention that a lot of people misuse the recycle bin for their trash bin. We've been warned, you know, if it happens again, we're possibly lose that type of service.
That's true.
So, because it's not associated with their pocketbook, I don't think people take it as serious as they possibly could. Have we gotten any recent, I know that you try to do a lot of service announcements to curb what
Not that
people
they've
use it
come
for?
back to us for. I
Okay.
mean, where he was getting hit was from the actual transfer station where he was taking and delivering the recycles. Signature Choice has not said anything recently,
Great.
since last time I met.
Okay.
When are we gonna talk about fee schedules?
Well,
You wanna go through the rest of the
how do-
budgets
how do-
and come
how do
back
we
to
look-
those, or?
How do we look on expenses so far? Is everybody okay with expenses the way they are right now?
No, I'm not thrilled.
It's balanced.
It's gotta be. by
No
law.
trick there.
What are we putting into contingency?
121,959.
That's it.
121,
Just that little
950.
bit. The
121,
balancing
959.
number.
Balancing number.
121.9.
Will that allow us to
So-
maintain a lovely percentage of contingency?
You're slightly over 30% in reserves now. You're about 32% in reserve.
And what are we required to have?
You're not required by law to have anything,
Well,
We have a
but
self-imposed
your policy is
requirement.
25.
25 is our policy. We're hoping to come
So
back with an
for-
ordinance.
For maintain our AAA rating and all that stuff, we're not supposed to have something in contingency?
Well, they like to see that for credit rating, et cetera, for bond interest.
And what
It
does that,
helps.
what does that figure at? Like,
There's not a set number.
not a-
That's a
they
number, it's
just
just a-
randomly say, we like your number.
Exactly.
All banks love loaning people, loaning money to
Obviously, the
people
higher
that don't
number,
need
the
money.
better.
Yep, yep.
But if we were to
Better
go
for
down
us.
to $5,000, would that affect our credit, our AAA rating?
Oh, I would think so.
Okay, so that's what I'm trying to
Yeah,
get
yeah.
to.
Right.
There's some magic
Yeah,
number
there's a
there that
magic,
we
yeah.
don't know, but they
Right.
tell us after we get there.
There's probably many things they look at, but
Yeah.
5,000 bank is
Many
not good.
factors.
Yeah, we've
To
been
be
there
determined.
before.
We've been there before.
Not just that they look at us, if you're applying for a mortgage or whatever, they look at all kinds of things. Sometimes it's obvious, and then there's things behind the curtain that you don't know why you got rejected or whatever.
In the
you
history
know.
of the city, et cetera.
So,
But keeping a good reserve is, obviously, I think, is to the city's benefit, clearly.
I'd like to throw something out to council. We have a lot of things on here that we get praised for, that the city looks great, you know, the flowers are beautiful, the roads are wonderful, everything looks great. But we're only putting $121,000 into our contingency.
Yeah.
So I asked Charlie and Bob to throw a budget together where we're not doing any of the frills. So we're charging for our garbage pickup. We're not maintaining the flower beds. We're not putting the lights up in the median. We're not making sure that the roads are kept up to our standard and everything.
We don't have fireworks at 4th of July, that kind of
Correct.
thing.
None of that stuff. Can you throw that up and show what that looks like?
Oh,
Tim.
wow.
Will you put up the other one, please?
It's been 29,000
take
alone
away
on
our
4th of July, I mean.
Hold on a second, hold on a second.
I do like to
can
go to
only
bed early
imagine.
on 4th of July, so
You probably do that every night.
I do.
You got it?
I get up early.
Sure you do.
He's talking, he's talking.
Me too.
I hear him.
Sounds like this is the Bah Humbug
Oh,
budget
yes,
coming up.
yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, it's-
Oh, yeah. No one would want to live here.
Yeah, we'd all move.
Tim.
He's coming. There he is.
All right. This, well, actually doesn't affect your fireworks because that's in a different budget.
Thank God.
Different fund. Council, you
Wow.
could eliminate, the training for council. You can see the amount to the side that would come out. Court training, which is, required CEUs. admin, travel and training dues, and that's not just me, by the way. Just want to make sure that's out there. Development services, the bulk of that, 11,990, is required CEUs for them to keep their certifications for the inspectors and whatnot. Public Works has taken out funding for the memorial gardens, funding for training, funding for landscaping, funding for streets, as well as the staff uniforms. Law enforcement, again, required training for their certifications. Basically, if you eliminate the travel and training for law enforcement, development services, and fire services, those three departments have to shut down. It does reduce out the new hires for ISO, which would affect the ISO rating. It eliminates funding for the volunteer fire department as well as the EMS program we just started. Parks and Rec eliminates, the big things are your park maintenance, your grounds maintenance, trail maintenance, the dog stations. Non-departmental safety program, the employee assistance program, trash and recycle, the median lights, boat storage. Basically, it would take your fund balance from this 121,959 to $2.39 million.
That's money.
Oh, that's definitely some money. Probably takes it up even higher than that because, as I said, we now have to contract with the Sheriff's Department for law enforcement, the volunteer fire stations at Riverview and Flint Hill for fire, and York County would get our permitting revenue.
Of course, this isn't realistic, so.
No, it's not.
No,
Okay.
But
Why do we do this?
Because everybody, you know, we are the most highest taxed city in this state. Not true. And the cost of doing the things that we like, the things that we like to have, the flowers we like to have, the events we like to have, that's your cost. The realization that that's what it would cost us to do the things that we do. So we could not do them.
So you said you're not running for mayor again, right?
That's
I
why-
did say that. And it was an awesome day when I did it, and it's still an awesome day. It's just a thought.
No, I mean, I don't think anybody's advocating for this kind of draconian effort here.
But it's interesting to see what the draconian effort would be.
Well, I guess, but
So fun stuff costs money.
There you go.
Who'd have thought that?
Exactly.
I thought it was free.
Fire station costs money.
So,
the fire station wasn't fun stuff, but it was necessary, and I'm glad it's done.
all right, so
Anyhow.
we want to go to fee schedules now?
I can, Council, y'all have got the fee schedules included in your packet. I'll go in the order, I believe that y'all have them in. The Operations Division fee schedule, you've got some slight upticks on three of those items. Your large brush piles, as well as your landscape timbers, cross ties. And again, those are just modest increase. The landscape timber cross ties is because of fees being incurred when we take those to the landfill. Your large piles of brush is to try to, as much as we can, account for the additional staff time that's required on those items.
So my question is, right, so I want an explanation for why things are going up, which is what you're trying to give.
Yes,
I'm
ma'am.
also curious as to whether we should be in the business of picking up all of the many different things that we have identified here. I mean, obviously, we're picking up brush, that's a good thing.
Right.
But I mean, things like household goods and all of these, if the city doesn't do that, even though we charge for it, which I believe we should, then are residents on their own, or is that?
They'd have to haul them either to the landfill or to the Baxter Convenience Center, depending on the item, which, based on how few and far between those requests to actually come into City Hall for us to get those things, I think a lot of people are already doing that.
Okay.
Either that or they're just not getting rid of things. We get, I mean, spring cleanup week, I mean, we get a decent little uptick as far as the folks coming in, paying the fee, making those requests. The rest of the year, it's really gone down, really has. Yeah, probably over the last 5 years. Really hadn't been driving a whole lot of revenue. There's not been a huge demand for the service.
Good,
But,
that's fine.
yeah.
Now, why is there a charge to have a permit for a live tree but not a dead one? I mean, not that I
10
want
years
people
I've
to
heard
get
that
rid
same
of live trees, but I'm just asking the question. The action that you take in the city is the
It's the
same.
exact same.
So,
It used to be just, it was a $20 permit fee, whether it was live or dead. The late great Les Connor exclaimed at a budget workshop some years ago, I'm not paying the city for permission to cut down a dead tree. And that's
Can't
where
agree
the
with- I agree
he
with
came
that.
up with. But yeah, the staff time spent on doing the inspection, doing the permit process, whatever, is the same whether the tree is live or dead.
But I'm not paying a fee for a dead tree.
Yeah, no, well, we're not
I
paying
know,
a fee
that's what
for
I-
a dead
but
tree
that's what I-
here, but I'm
I
not
agree
sure
with
if we should pay for a live one, if there's a reason that it has to come down, or, I guess it doesn't have to, but, okay, all right. I'll get off that one for now. But we still don't have a real Christmas tree in the city. Boat storage rental, why is that going up?
Those storage rentals not.
No, I'm sorry. Should the boat storage rental be increased?
It's not full. Hasn't been full for a number of years. It's moderately priced. We're not the lowest, not the cheapest. We're not the most expensive.
That's what I wanted to know.
And it's not full. I mean, if we had a waiting list like we used to, possibly, but
All right. Land disturbance permits.
your
If we're
next
going in
group
order.
is development services. And this is something
Development
that I asked Tom Goble to take a good look at. All of, where you see these red lines, none of these are things that are typically paid by a resident. It's by a developer, by a builder. Okay, so, that residential new construction, land disturbance permit, that's paid by the builder. And obviously commercial is. We left the residential fees, so to speak, intact, left them alone, with no increases.
I mean, I guess I'd like to understand why we feel there's a need to increase even the commercial fees at this point. I mean, what's changed that we think that that's justified? I'm not saying it isn't, but we also want to be friendly to people that want to be in our city, and
We
disagree.
can, we,
Double those fees.
we can absolutely still be business friendly, while ensuring that any growth does pay for growth. We've got staff, a good bit of staff time involved with builders and developers through their process. We, for years, worked to try to keep those fees low, especially in the commercial world, because we felt like we were competing with York County that was right at our doorstep. When you look at the boundary map of the city and what our potential growth areas are, it's extremely, extremely limited. I mean, there may be, as far as undeveloped parcels, there may be 8 parcels left. 160 is done. In regards to the vacant parcels, not yet spoken for. There really isn't a competition between the city and the county anymore. The folks have made their decisions, so why should we continue to try to keep our rates? At least this was the thought process that we had. Council wants to go a different route. I mean, that's absolutely the way we'll go. The way we looked at it is, why should we continue to try to keep our rates low just to try to attract something that's not coming anyway? People are going to come to TKK because they want to be in TKK. We can still be extremely business friendly, regardless of what the fees is, or the fees are. So, looking at it from that standpoint, and looking at it from a standpoint of, what these developers and builders are making on a per lot basis.
$50 didn't hurt.
Yeah, I mean, these are modest upticks.
I just
Not
like them to be
astronomical by any
justified,
means,
that's
but,
all. I don't like them to just be because we can.
And I would say that for the past
I don't see that as a
four,
rationale.
as the past 4 years, those fees have been neutral. They've not moved at all.
Is the Board of Zoning Appeals fee of $350, is that both commercial and not commercial, residential?
That's for anybody that files appeal with the zoning board, with BOZA.
Where do our fees fall in line with Fort Mill, York County?
Lot of fees were pretty much the same. Some fees were higher, some fees were lower. I mean, it's just kind of all over the map. I mean,
Well, I guess in response to Dottie's question, she'd like to know why we're increasing the fee by $50. Are we increasing the fee by $50 because that's what our competition has done? Or are we just doing it because we want to balance the budget?
we looked at our fees, and we looked at the fact that there has been, at least from the reports that we have received each year from the state, there's been a 2% cost of living every year for at least the past 4 years, and we have been neutral on our fees. We have not touched them at all.
When was the last time we increased our fees?
Tom? 5, 6, 7 years ago?
Yeah, 7 or 8.
7 or 8 years ago, in this realm.
Does that help you?
No. So I know the Board of Zoning Appeals, the number didn't change at all. It's 350, it's been. I think that that's very steep for a resident who's coming in to challenge something, a zoning issue. I can see business paying $350, for Ryan would be pleased with that, but I don't see it for residents. I mean, that's a lot.
Well, it covers
a
our
lot.
cost. I mean, one ad in the newspaper is gonna cost $200. Because we're legally obligated to post it in the Herald. We also have to send out mail, actual certified mail, to all the adjoining property owners within 200 feet of it. I mean, it covers the cost. I mean, and that was a fee that we actually discussed at length. Are we too high? Are we too low? But when you factor in all the things that we're legally required to do for a zoning amendment or a variance, yeah, and then you factor in even just a small portion of the staff time that's doing it in addition to your fixed cost. Yeah, depending on the area and how many people you actually have to send mail to and things like that, yeah, I mean, you may not even break even on the 350. In most cases you are, and you're coming out a little bit better.
Okay. Anybody else have comments on
Well,
the
just
fee
to be clear,
schedules, or?
I'm not pro-business fees. I'm pro-developer fees. I think at this point in time, we've crossed the threshold where TEK doesn't have to make it easy on developers anymore. Our focus is to make it more difficult and get the product that we want, not some of the garbage that we have. That, it was, hadn't been great.
Okay, are we jumping around here? Are we going in order or what? You gonna go down the list?
I was gonna go from development fees to the public safety, but if we're
Okay,
still
no,
on.
I'm gonna go way ahead of you then. Go ahead. You take over. When we get there, I'll ask a question.
Okay. Anything else on development fees?
Dottie already covered the ones I had.
All right.
Your public safety fees, no change on PD, fire department. Biggest thing is on the false alarm calls. Most cities have these and charge those. We haven't historically. We've got a couple of commercial folks out there that keep our fire guys running pretty good on the false alarm things. It does give them gives them a couple of uh-ohs before, all right, now you gotta start paying for these things. Every time the alarm goes off, we're coming. But just because somebody didn't know the activation or deactivation code because they were running a test and we're rolling a fire truck, it gives us an opportunity to recoup some of that. Your residential, we used to have a residential burn permit, but since by code we don't allow the residents to do like an open burn your brush type thing, Chief recommended just turning this into a commercial burn permit of $1,000. To be honest with you, I don't know that we get any requests for that, do we, Chief?
This is
We've gotten a
commercial.
couple.
last few years.
So-
We do make the residents give us a call for burn permit. So we have to notify EOC.
But we don't allow the open burns in a residential property, correct?
Oh, yes, we do.
Fire pits.
Each front owns
Well,
a bond.
not talking about fire pits. I'm talking about, hey, I've cut a whole bunch of limbs, done a bunch of pruning, and I want to burn them, or I want to burn the leaves in my backyard, things like that.
Happens all
I
the
don't,
Like a
Fine.
bonfire on the beach, is that,
That's fine.
okay.
right.
That's fine?
But they have to notify you for
Yes.
that.
We have to come, we go down, we send a truck down, and crew, and they inspect the site,
Okay.
make sure they have a water source.
Yeah, okay.
I'm still not pro-burning at all by anybody. There's too much density in the city, too much density now. And I brought this up at a meeting before, and Ryan's laughing because he's saying, well, gee whiz,
Let's
you
make it
vote
easy
for
on the
density.
developers.
No, I mean, the point is, all right, can we be serious here? All
We
right, we
are.
have different opinions about certain things, but that's why we're all here. Right now, I'm talking about the budget.
Yeah, it's just a
And
little
I'm-
levity, Dottie.
No,
It's just
no,
all it is.
it's not levity,
It is, it
okay?
is.
I'm talking about burning in the city. And my opinion is, and I'd like to know other people's opinions, is, I brought this up at a meeting or two before, is that because the burn permit or the ability to burn has existed for a very long time, the city has changed extensively over the years. And is it time, Chief, for us to consider a change? And if I'm wrong, I'm wrong. I mean, I'm only one person, but I'm
I
just
don't think you-
asking for the opinion, for somebody's opinion that knows.
Personally, fire,
It's on.
I'm against any burning, okay? We do have a red flag alert, and if someone does, we have a police ordinance that if they burn, they get fined. Most of the time, it's just a slap on the wrist. Fire is against all burning. If someone has a fire pit, we understand that, but when they get outside the fire pit, that's when we have the problems. Or they start a fire and it burns down and they leave, and then the wind picks up the next morning, and then we have issues.
Yeah, I mean,
So-
that's my concern.
It's really up
It's-
to you guys if you want to put a no burn ban
Okay.
in the city of TK, except for fire pits. I'm all for
And a
it.
fire pit would be defined as just a bunch of rocks around, is there a
You don't have any specifications on it. If we're going to do this, we might as well do it for the fire pit, and then fire pits are covered, and if they're going to build a big masonry fire pit, they have to go through the building permit.
Yeah, they have to do that anyway, yeah.
If they just got a beach front like I do, and I just put a bunch of rocks around it and just put them, that's a fire pit.
Right. Right now, we have nothing to stop you from burning.
It could be that big, or it could be this big.
Exactly.
Yeah. Thanks, Chief.
Thank you. Can I go?
Bye.
All right, that's it. No more.
Well, I do have about the fire department, is the alarms. I am in favor of that. I know I had brought that up as a concern last year.
Come on back.
I just wanted to clarify whether or not these are false alarms versus just alarms. Because it doesn't say the first 5 would be necessary, false alarms. My neighbor's had actually, many issues with fire in her home. So, not to say that's the norm. Those
No,
are all accurate
we-
calls.
We consider
This is
false
commercial.
alarms when we're canceled en route, or when
Okay.
we get there and it's the same thing over and over. And it's really not a fire, but because a sprinkler system shows a flow of water, like at the Glen Center, some of the commercial places, then we're sending 2 trucks minimum. And usually the volunteers bring a truck too, so there's 3. And on fire alarms, we get mutual aid sometimes. So we got 4 or 5 trucks, you're looking at, $4 or $5 million worth of equipment there. 16 or so guys, or anywhere from 4 to 16, say. It's a big cost. And what we find is that all these false alarms, there's no penalty. So thus, why fix them?
Right.
It costs a lot of money to fix a sprinkler system or a meter. Well, as long as we keep coming, they don't care.
Can we just insert then, these are false alarms instead of just alarms per year?
Oh, yeah.
That's all.
And this is
on-
commercial
in
only,
burn.
but
Right.
is,
Right.
but still, makes
Right.
sense, I think.
So if we wanted to impose a fine, would that be an ordinance? We have to,
If it's in this, this is adopted by ordinance, so.
So could we put in there false alarms?
Yeah, makes sense.
You all right with that?
Yep.
Chocolate on my pants.
Okay. Any other questions for the chief?
Not yet.
Thanks, chief.
we'll call you
Thank
back in
you.
a minute.
Thanks for the visit.
No changes for the registration fee schedule. And then the facility rental schedule, there was one minor change. We've actually had some folks requesting to be able to rent the hearth room, which actually wasn't this year. They started those requests. So just doing basically that same $25 an hour, just adding that in, because prior to this, it wasn't even an option to be able to.
But for community use, mahjong, bridge,
Yeah,
women's
we're,
club,
we're not
there's
charging
no
them
fee
now.
for that.
That's correct.
Okay, so if you want to rent the hearth room specifically, that's what it costs.
Like a birthday party or something like that?
Correct,
Okay.
yes.
No, you can't have
Yep.
food or drink
Oh,
for $25. You can for 75.
okay.
We ask that they keep it in the kitchen in the large meeting room, keep it off the carpet. And that's pretty much all your changes on fee schedules that affect general fund. Your other fee schedules, if we can tackle those, fund by fund, obviously the next one would be your utility department schedule. If we could get into that maybe after the utility budget, if we're done with
We
general
okay
fund.
with moving on? Do we want to take a 5-minute walk-around break?
Nope.
Or are we good? Keep going.
Keep going.
Keep
Right
going.
on through.
T-Cud.
T-Code, your utility department envisions tap fees at $225,000, irrigation taps at $25,000, water revenue, $2,091,324, your sewer revenue at $2,170,140, your water activation fees at $20,000, and then other revenues coming in at $40,020, giving you total revenues of $4,571,484. Your expenses are going to break down as all your costs associated with personnel at $1,134,873. Your operation and maintenance of the system totals to $2,050,883. You've got debt service. This is on your acquisition bond as well as the SRF loan to repair the sewer system. It totals $908,602. You've got lease payments on the water meter replacement. You've got some maintenance vehicles as well as the 2 booster pumps at $219,797. One-time expense on the FEMA grant. These are matching funds for those backup generators. Totals $81,050. So in the 18-19 fiscal year, you won't see that expense any longer. The Rural Infrastructure Authority grant, that was the $500,000 grant that we got from to go towards the 3rd water tower. Those are that would be expenses that we see there. So your operating expenses, including personnel, along with your debt services, $4,405,205. So when you look at your revenues over expenditures, it puts you to the plus of $166,279 to put into reserves. Just to show you just how those expenditures break out. 45% of the revenues or of your expenditures are going into the operation and maintenance of the system, 25% into personnel and 20% into debt service. And then you've got about 3% of your estimated expenditures going into fund balance. Just some notes on the utility budget. The funds does meet the debt service coverage of the 1.2 to 1 ratio that's required by our master bond covenants. That's crucial and key, probably above anything and everything in regards to this. As we get into the rates, we'll talk about the addition of capacity fees. And those are things that are not paid by your, on a monthly basis by a resident on their water bill. Okay, that is the capacity impact to the actual system. Again, as with the other departments, with the exception of fire department, no new hires. Does envision about $129,000 in needed equipment, but that first payment won't impact this fiscal year. And staff's plan right now is this spring to bring a financing plan for the new water tower. That is something that we can finance over a good number of years. But we'll have that conversation with council in the spring as we are moving closer on that project. And we'll bring additional financial data towards it for council's consideration at that point in time.
And what is the location of the new water tower?
It will be off of what is now called Deer Creek, the dirt road across from Hubert Graham Way. It'll be just right down in there.
I remember now.
And with that is the nuts and bolts of the utility budget.
Sludge, yeah.
Yeah, so come on up, Philip.
Come on up, Philip.
Since
Come on down.
we've already got at least one question on it,
Well,
most certainly.
I was just thinking that sludge, I really didn't know there was two types of sludge.
It
But,
could be 3.
oh, is there three?
Absolutely.
Regular, mid-grade, and
Has everybody had dinner yet?
high octane?
High
High octane sludge?
yeah.
Oh, God, I just can't wait
High
to hear about that.
intense.
No, the number one question I'm always asked, besides, about TCUD, is why does TCUD 2 have a flat sewage rate? You know, people go out of town, they still get charged even though they're not flushing their toilets or they're not using the bathtub. And I think we probably answer it every year, but let's go ahead and answer it again. Just why do we have a $53 flat rate for sewage on TCUD 2?
TCUD 2, when we acquired the system from Utilities Inc., for the most part, we kept the exact same fees that they had in place at that time. As I mentioned on one of the slides, we do have a restriction from on the bonds that we must meet that debt service covenant, the 1.2 to 1 ratio.
Servicing the bonds.
We would, to change that to a volumetric or a usage rate versus a flat monthly fee, I would say that we need to hire a consultant. There is one locally that's done for Rock Hill, Fort Mill, and York County to do a rate analysis and to come in and study it. That rate wouldn't, in my opinion, that rate is probably not what the volumetric rate is for TCUD 1. It's probably higher, but I could be wrong. But without bringing in a consultant to analyze it, now, if Bob and I and Philip had absolutely nothing else to do, for about a month, we could probably come into a rate. But if you've got that consultant there to do that rate analysis for us,
So to monitor the sewage, you'd have to have a meter.
oh yeah.
And that'd be a cost. We don't have those right now, right? In TCUD 2.
Well, TCUD 1 doesn't either. TCUD 1 sewer rate is based off of what their water rate, by the gallons
Is that
used
the
through the
same way
water
it
meter.
works? So just what comes in, obviously it's gonna go out pretty much some way.
Didn't you have some type of work between, when I mentioned that, like 4 or 5 months ago, as far as the went out of town for 2 months, came back, and you had came back and said you had something that could help a little?
Something our billing staff is working on now, and I think, Katie, we're talking about January rolling that out, is what's called a fixed rate or a flat rate or budget billing. I've heard it called a number of different things, but it all equates to the same. What we're going to begin doing here over the next couple of months is rolling out more information on it to the residents on when they can sign up, and then they can sign up each year for it. But it would allow them basically they've got to have a 12-month history with us. So we look at what their 12-month average is, and then that sets their rate, and that's the rate that they get. That's the bill that they get every single month.
But that
Now,
doesn't help
at
them
the
with
end-
the sewage.
Not with usage now.
No, it doesn't. What it will get you is during those months where, maybe there's months where you're in town and you've got high usage, you're still paying that lesser amount, but when you're gone, it gives you more of a budget. Somebody that's, a lot of utility companies do this for, folks that are on fixed incomes, your senior citizens, things like that. And on that 12th month of the billing cycle, you either get a credit because because it's still being metered, it's still being monitored. You either get a credit because you've actually used less than what your average is, or that 12th bill, it's your
Catch-up bill.
it's your balancing bill, type thing. That's one of the things that we're rolling out in January. In regards to the flat rate on the sewer, and turning it into a volumetric rate, my opinion, we need to just have a rate study done.
What's that
In order
cost?
to do that, you're probably looking anywhere between 20 and 30 grand. I don't know that I would arbitrarily mess with those rates and say, well, let's try, this is what TCUD 1's paying on a volumetric, here's what TCUD 2's paying. Obviously, we could look at it from a standpoint of, okay, here's 100% of the cost that goes through the treatment process, from the utilities, from a staff standpoint, from chemicals, from sludge hauling, things like that, divided by the number of households that goes into that system. Here you go, and come up with a rate that wouldn't be arbitrary, because we absolutely got to stay away from arbitrary rate setting. With that, though, if we miss and you don't hit your debt covenant, your debt service ratio that's required in the bond covenants, and now we've got issues with the bonds and with the bank. So,
But I'm just talking about,
I would, before you do the rate study, take a look at 10 homes on TCUD 1 and find out what their sewer rate is. And then take 10 homes on TCUD 2 and see what their rate is. And see if there is that much of a difference.
like a random sample, just pick
Random
10 out of the
sample,
sky?
You just take square footage, whatever, and and determine whether or not there is a disparity, what the disparity is, or before you go and spend 30 grand on a rate
Yeah,
study.
I think what the question is, usually I get is, I'm a single woman, widow, and the family next door's got 8 kids in there, or 8 people, and they pay the same rate for sewage as I do.
Right.
So that's,
Absolutely. Absolutely.
But if you take, again, similar situation, you take someone who's in Callaway on TCUD 1, you take someone on TCUD 2, single families, one person in the house, what's their sewer rate in comparison to someone else, before you go and spend 30 grand? My opinion. Sludge, you want to know sludge hauling thing?
I was really just thinking it was that, the water that was seeping in, and every time it rained, we were hauling that stuff away, but this is
That's where
completely
a lot
different.
of it was charged to that line item
Yeah.
once we did have that lake tank when we had heavy rainfall. But there is monthly sludge that has to be hauled away. That is actually, we have a contractor that comes in, takes that away, and actually lands the plot through DHEC.
So somebody gets in there and digs that out.
Philip, would you speak closer to your
I'm
microphone
sorry.
and getting the words there?
Yes, through our treatment process, that waste is removed, it's allowed to dry. Then we have a contractor who's approved through DHEC to come in and get that waste and haul it, and then actually land apply it in the lower part of the state.
Interesting.
All right, so that's a cost we're going to bear, period. End of story.
Absolutely.
There's no, okay.
I mean, there's other technologies out there, which some of this is included in our budget, looking at other options of how to handle certain issues like that. But you're still gonna have minimal,
And that goes to a landfill? Or
There is equipment that can be utilized, but you're talking about upfront cost is very significant. You're talking about $500,000.
Sludge dynamics.
It's a dirty job, but somebody has to do it.
Any other questions for Philip?
I was curious, I know you said there's no new hires, but we're going up $43,000 versus the budget versus what's requested. Are we talking about overtime, or are we getting more in alignment what we're really spending for salaries and wages?
Your salaries,
732 versus 775?
Right.
Sneaking that raise
Yep.
in there, didn't you?
No, that includes your cost of living, plus you've got some upticks for, I'm getting to it right now, let's see. For, you've got a couple of promotions, due to certifications obtained, additional certifications obtained, that are in there.
Okay. And
But
the
it's no
tap
new headcount.
fees, the tap fees, is that gonna come into, for under revenue? 405 is what was budgeted. We've only got 243,000 about now. Are we anticipating them to come online, or yet the request for next year, we're only at 225, so?
Well, part of the reason for the 225 for next year is Lake Ridge pays at a, and it's per development agreement, them and Serenity Point pay at a much higher rate than our published rate schedule for tap fees. Yeah, single home right now, outside of Lake Ridge, Serenity Point, that builder's coming in, they're paying $27.50 for water and sewer. In Lake Shore and Serenity Point, again, this was part of the development agreement for those areas, is paying $38.78 per. With, yeah, up until recently, all of those were being refunded back to the developer. The builder pays it, it gets paid back to the developer because the developers incurred the cost of building the sewer line to Rock Hill, 10, 15 years ago, I guess. So now you've got Lake Ridge is basically done, Serenity Point is basically done, River Lakes is basically done, and Cameron Creek is not moving very fast.
Yeah.
River Falls still has not started. Windhaven has not started, nor has Game On with its residential portion. So this is based on a breakdown Tom Goebel does every year with where he talks to the various builders in town. What are your projections as far as number of homes for next year? That goes into the development services side as far as permits and on the general fund revenue side, as well as on the T-CUD side as well. Yes, we still have tap fees coming in for the remainder of this fiscal year. I mean, there are some weeks where we may get 15 to 20 in 1 week of tap fees coming in.
Okay. And my only other question is regarding the water tower maintenance. What is it that, we're going from 10,000 to 45,000 for next year, so is this something that's like on, what is going on with
This
taking
is
care of it?
looking at a contract agreement with a provider to paint both towers and tanks. I brought to council, I think last year, the maintenance agreement for the one tower outside. I've went back to them recently and asked them to look at both tanks to do the maintenance agreement. That is the maintenance agreement to basically perform the maintenance required by DHEC, plus to paint out the exterior of both tanks within the next 3 years, as well as interior painting, interior washout.
And why do we?
Yeah, interior washouts, everything required to keep up to date what we need to do.
Yeah.
I remember the interior and all
Yeah, I
that,
remember the
and the
interior.
maintenance. I didn't remember anything about painting the outside, because we went through that whole painting the outside with the one out here and didn't do that, so. But
Okay.
maybe if we need
If
it
you'll-
later, we'll see, I
Right,
guess.
if you'll, can view the top of this tower, from parts in the city, you'll see where the paint's coming off of it. Yeah, with this agreement, that tower would be painted within the first year. The other tower over on Shoreline would be painted the second year, and then maintenance upkeep for the remaining of the years. And you could cancel
But
the contract.
You
at
have
any
to
point
talk
in time.
louder.
sorry, you're gonna have to
People
talk
can't
louder,
hear you.
Sorry.
Sorry.
This tower right out here at the Glennon Center would be painted within the first year. The shoreline tank would be painted in the second year, then the maintenance for those would continue. Within the first 5 years, the interior of this one would be painted, and then washouts to include every 5 years. Every 15 years, should we want to continue the contract, it would include a washout and a repaint. But every 5 years, it includes a washout to wash out the sediment that may be building up inside the tank to keep the water as clean as possible.
That will come back to us again, or a contract or something. won't it? I mean,
Correct.
I remember that you were here. I remember we talked about this painting. The price
that
was
was after the current
outrageous, and
fiscal
then we
year's
said,
budget was already approved.
forget it.
Correct.
We're not doing it. It's too expensive. So whether the money goes in here or not, I just want to make sure we have an opportunity to actually look at any potential contract and really understand what we need
Most certainly.
and what we're
Absolutely.
getting, because this could just be out of sight in terms of cost, which is, I think, what our reaction was the first time we talked about this.
Yes, it was.
Okay.
Anything else for Philip? Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Thanks, Philip.
Rate schedule, real quick.
Should have gone quicker.
On the rate schedule for the utility department, historically, we have had our tap and capacity fees, talking on water, more or less blended. And a builder would come in, it's $1,250 for, and that 3/4 inch meter, that's your domestic meter, your normal household size meter. And looking and staying with what is commonplace in the industry, or getting to what is commonplace in the industry, what we are envisioning with these tap fees is bringing the actual tap fee, reducing it slightly, it's covering our costs, but then initiating what is a capacity fee, because of the impact that growth would be putting on the capacity of our system, and our ability to serve. So, and I wanted Philip to stick around in case folks had questions on tap fee, capacity fee on that. The only other real change that you've got there is on, and some of these red lines are just because of just formatting, and I had the track changes still on. The usage report, now that we've got these new meters, and folks love those reports, printing them out is great. There are some people that, we've got a bunch of customers that think that, oh, okay, well, that's my bill. So every time I get a bill, I'm going to ask you for a usage report and another usage report. And I mean, we're printing paper and, staff time and things like that. So it's, again, it's a very small fee, but did want to bring attention to that as well. First one, yeah, here you go. Here's your usage report. After that, it's just, covering a little bit of the cost there.
It's a cost of doing business. I don't think we should charge the residents for a usage report if they want to see a usage report. It's a cost of doing business.
It's fine. If council doesn't want it, we can eliminate that.
Yeah, I mean, I don't like it either. I mean, when you, usually with utility companies, like when you get your Duke Energy bill, it gives you a usage report as part of your bill.
Well, the bill has it. It shows you what your usage is on every bill, but we still have people that want
An hour by hour.
hour by
breakdown,
hour
perhaps.
for the past month and a half. And you end up having to print off a 50-page document for them. Yeah, those are the type usage
That
reports
might
that
be a-
they're
That's
asking
an
for. They're not
unusual
asking for month to
Potentially a
month.
horse
It's
of a different color.
Yes, it is.
day-to-day, hour-by-hour type usage reports are the requests that we get, but
All right, well,
if it's cost,
that's,
I mean,
that's.
we can eliminate
No,
it.
that changes the landscape a little bit. I guess I'd like to.
But you're saying the first one is free.
Correct.
I mean,
That's so they can figure out maybe there's a leak or
Right,
Or-
yeah.
Well, we even
or
do
they can adjust their habits or something.
we even do proactive, leak detections with these meters. We actually send an employee out if we can get an alert that there's a leak on the customer's account. We'll send them out to verify the leak and then to let them know that, yes, they actually have a leak prior to getting their monthly bill. Used to, they wouldn't get that until they got their monthly bill.
Do we have the ability to send them a PDF and they can print it out themselves what they want?
Yes.
Email a PDF?
That's what I was thinking about, if they could just access their bill online and they could
You
do
don't
it.
charge them to email it, but, that should be offered, we can email it to you. For me, it's a cost of doing business. $2.30 for a ream of paper.
Is that your
500
cost or our
sheets.
cost?
That's your cost. 500 sheets, $230, $2.30. I'm gonna charge them $5. It's a cost of doing business, as far as I'm concerned.
Leave it in, take
That's
it
my
out.
point. I'm of the outs.
Looking forward to bring back to you later this in August.
I mean, how many people are doing this?
Okay.
I would say a handful. I think mainly the request came from people who repeatedly ask for this, they call them every month. And to just try to curb that behavior, it's the same every single month, and at some point we should charge for that, but, I'd say a
Yeah,
handful
like,
every
why
month.
don't you offer to email it to them? Cuts down the labor. I guess the point is, I know there's paper's cheap, but I guess you're talking about the labor cost
Right,
and
I'm
the,
thinking that.
and the toner for the cartridges
it,
and
everything,
all that other
yeah.
stuff.
And
But
pulling the
Well,
report.
Yeah.
I mean, it takes a little bit of staff time to pull the report. It's not an astronomical amount of time by any stretch of the
then
imagination.
after the pulling report, then the printing part is what you're saying.
It's your folks that are coming in repeatedly every month, print me an hour by hour report, for these 3 weeks. And then the next month, print me an hour by hour report for, this one. And it's
Well-
an every month thing. But, I mean, it's,
I would just
yeah, we
say
could,
it's only available on on email.
we could email it too.
It's only,
Okay.
yeah,
Nickel and diming people by charging them $5 for a
yeah.
report.
I would just
It's
say,
fine.
yeah. Let them, because they
Not
probably
a
really don't even
problem
want to print
whatsoever.
out, they just want to be able to see it on their computer or something. I'd just say free
I'll email
email.
it to you.
Free mail.
Okay, not a problem. So noted. That was all for T-Cud, unless council has additional questions there.
I'm gonna go Google sludge when I get home.
I can take you, show you firsthand.
All right, I can.
We do
Thanks,
field trips.
Philip.
We do field trips.
Do lunch tomorrow.
Do lunch first and then sludge.
Oh. I'm out. Whoops,
Beach and swim center.
Yes, sir. 1 second. There we go. Beach Club, nothing real crazy here. Your membership revenue at $170,000, your club rentals at $3,400. Other revenues, swim team, swimming lessons, things of that nature, $12,207, giving you revenues of $185,607. Your expenditures, your personnel here, this is going to make up a percentage of portions of your Parks and Rec salaries. The folks that actually are administering things at the beach club is a small percentage of their salary. But so your personnel is at $60,793. Operations and maintenance, which includes your pool management contract and things like that, at $119,520. With an operational contingency of $5,294. Obviously, if not used, that goes into the savings account for the beach club. No tax dollars going into this whatsoever for the 16th year now. Balanced at $185,607. I don't really know that chart is 100% necessary, but the bulk of the expenses obviously is in your operation and maintenance. No real notes on this one. Your no fee increases. We're trying to, and I'm sure as y'all have looked at this sheet, it's read like crazy. We're trying to do is just simplify it. I mean, I think we've got a package for every thing
Possibility.
under the sun,
include the
and
nanny.
that have been around for forever. So I asked Joey and his staff to spend some time just looking at some of the analytics. How many folks do we have in this one versus that one? And okay, what if we combine these two because they're pretty much the same? What does that do? So that's what we've done through that for the most part. Now, some of the conversation in regards to the actual rates themselves, the after early bird rate. We don't get a ton of those folks coming in, but what we have noticed, what staff has noticed down there is we get folks that are, they're coming in July because they just moved here, and it's, well, the rate's $455. And they're like, yeah, screw it. I'm not signing up. And they leave. Bringing that cost down just a little bit. I mean, the vast majority, the overwhelming majority of our folks that are signing up are hitting that early bird rate. You know, they're coming in at that lesser amount. So trying to bring the upper amount down slightly, see if we can encourage, some more members, potentially additional revenue there. The thought process behind the non-residents, which we don't have very many of that are joining down there. And now that basically every new neighborhood that gets built in the county has got their own swimming pool anyway, your field to draw from, so to speak, is very limited. You got Palmetto West, that's kind of right here in the area. Waterstone's got its own, Hawks Creek's got its own, so not a whole lot of non-residents, not a big market there to come join the pool. Basically what we did was we took the early bird rate and then just added $100 to it for that, which if they join the pool, they get a non-resident sticker to be able to park at the pool. They have for a number of years. So just adding in the cost of that non-resident sticker of $100, is where we arrived at those. Again, just trying to simplify the number of different packages, and then just trying to tweak the rates slightly, hopefully to benefit the overall beach and swim center. We've been pretty flat in the way of revenue for the last couple of years. The total number of membership packages sold, that type thing. So just trying to shake things up, see what additional revenues we can generate from there to, again, try to keep it tax neutral as it's been since the city took it over. So
Why don't you, for the new residents, why don't you just allow all new residents to be the early bird rate? They're just moving like welcome to the neighborhood type thing, that would encourage them.
typically, if they're coming in, hey, I just bought my house, and they've got that proof of just bought the house, and it's before July 1. Staff has been doing that.
Good,
Hey,
that's good.
great. But, folks that come in, middle of July, because the prorate doesn't start until August. And these are just people that we've actually heard from. No telling how many folks have just looked online, saw the rate, and went,
Yes.
screw that. I've
That's
already
what we
missed
did.
a month and a half of the frickin' pool season. I'm not paying that rate.
But I
So,
would think for the people who just moved here, that wouldn't know any difference. Just-
How
right.
many members do we have?
I think it's 610 memberships now, Joey, 615?
I think it's slightly more than that.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, around that
The last
ballpark.
report I had was like 615, but might have gone up.
We've been anywhere between 615 membership packages and probably 625,
Exactly, on a consistent basis.
give or take, for the last
One
several
year, I
years.
think we were 639, but that was one high year, but that's about it.
Well, at some point in time, we're gonna have to look at, since it's a separate enterprise fund and it doesn't get supported by taxes, and I'm not saying it should, we're gonna have to look at something to do with the beach and swim center, because if the memberships are not gonna continue to go up, the costs are gonna go up.
Yeah,
Mhm.
and
And there's
repairs
gonna
are
have to
gonna be,
There's gonna have to be some kind of decision about the beach and swim center as far as rates and things like that, but that's
I-
not today.
Just have one question, and maybe I'm not understanding it, Joey or Charlie. Like, for example, just for resident family membership, forget the nanny for a minute.
Right.
So family includes 4 guest passes, $310. Or
Correct.
whatever. So, and then if down a couple, it says grandparent package, grandparents and up to 4 grandchildren, $255. So is is the grandparent package a package all by itself, not tied to the family having
That's
a
correct.
package?
That is correct.
And I'm just trying to understand
Why
why
are they different
that's
rates?
less. Yeah, I mean, theoretically, in some cases.
We spent some time talking about that as well.
I mean, I guess I just don't understand that, and it's not too big a deal to me, but I'm just trying to understand what the difference is, because the family may say, no, the kids are with grandma and grandpop all week, and we just want, and they're there all the time. They may use it more than a family, I guess, as
This
well.
package, if I recall correctly, and it has been in there for quite some time, that package, so to speak, had more to do with, hey, I'm going to have the grandkids, they're coming from out of town, I'm going to be keeping the grandkids for half the summer, I want to take them to the pool, or the grandparent becomes the de facto nanny for the summer while the kids are out of school. When I saw that one, I actually thought, well, wait a minute, why don't we just
Get a grandparent
no,
package.
well, you just get the family package, because you've got grandparents, you've got the kids, and surely we don't have that many people in there. We actually had a good number of folks buying that package, which surprised me, but.
But I'm wondering if a lot of people are buying that package because it's cheaper, but it's not really the grandparents that are using it.
Oh, well, nobody would do that.
Oh, come on.
That's, no.
Okay, I'm just saying. I don't understand the difference, really. It doesn't make sense to me, but
Well, I think you factor in frequency of use potentially with that. I think the other thing you look at is you have a discount on the seniors as well, and not to say that all grandparents are over that age as well, but that does factor
Nice
into it
catch.
as well.
Good one.
So
I mean, I'm a
there-
young
there's
grandparent.
you could have a discussion
Using
about
the
beach and
pool.
swim center rate for hours because we've already done it.
Yeah, I don't want to.
It's
I-
not an exact
I don't
science.
want to, I just wanted to ask that question. So, to me, there's no real rhyme or reason, but
And
it's all good.
just, we
it
did do a increase on the fees overall for this fiscal year, or was it last fiscal year?
2 years ago.
2 years ago.
Yeah, I was just thinking you were thinking of grandparents being on a fixed income or something, and you were offering them some kind of discount.
Yeah, senior discount.
Yes.
Ryan will be up for that
Sometimes
soon.
they have more
Did
money
you-
than the other people, but.
Thank you, Dottie.
Big 4-0.
I was curious
I
about
got
the swim
shoes that are
team.
40
Are
years
we
old.
like reducing our swim team by over half?
It's
or
just
what's going
netting
on?
it.
No, it's a different income coming.
It was,
It's
it
going
was,
to Parks and Rec or?
no. It used to be 100% of the revenue came in, and then we had all these expenses that went out.
Yes.
Now the revenue's coming in, they're taking care of those expenses. It's just netting it. It's still the same ratio as far as what they're paying to use the facility, things like that. That's still the same. It's just simplifying the accounting and the check cutting and everything else. It's just simplifying that process and netting those revenues and expenditures, and they are still paying the same amounts for their time in the pool and things like that.
So, who's losing their job at the Beach and Swim Center?
What's
We
that now?
budgeted $49,000 this year, we're budgeting $39,000 next year.
It's a salary allocation.
How does that work? Explain that to me, please.
As far as, okay, well, you've got, hold on one second, just, hold on,
Okay.
I'll pull up exactly what it is. All right, so you've got, 67% of Dustin and Lacey's salary in Parks and Rec, and 33% in Beach and Swim Center.
Okay.
And then you've got a percentage of Joey in Parks and Rec and Beach and Swim Center, and in our events tourism, since he plans and orchestrates those events and spends a good bit of his
So
staff
it's
time on it.
allocation between different budgets?
That's correct.
For salaries?
That
Okay,
is correct.
that makes sense. Thank you.
I see the advertising, we're getting rid of it. Is this because we're using social media?
Correct.
Email blasts and such?
We used to pay
Formal
for-
Times hasn't necessarily been, I think, a very strategic partner in advertising the beach and swim center, so we're looking at different avenues
Okay.
to
And yes, utilizing
But-
the free social media, things like that, definitely is a better route for us as far as getting more bang for the buck.
Okay, great, thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks, Joey.
Thank you.
Stormwater.
Oh, now that he's chewing.
Should we have Tim come out while you're chewing?
Stormwater revenues, at $490,340. York County is still collecting those for us. Very successful there since that has started. And for the most part, they're also doing our commercial customers. So we're not having to bill those separately. Your uptick is just due to number of equivalent residential units. You got more homes, more businesses that are paying into that. Fees still the same. Your expenditures, $228,141 in your personnel cost, salaries, wages, FICA, retirement, that kind of thing. Your operation and maintenance at $183,770. You got debt payments a portion of which, about 24,000, if I recall correctly,
Yes,
Bob,
it is, yep.
is the final bond payment, the initial bond that was taken out some 15 years ago,
Right, and we financed it.
12 years ago.
We financed it.
It's been a
10 years ago we
while.
started.
10 years ago?
2006, 2007, yeah.
Okay, so 10 years ago. Final payment in this fiscal year on that one, or in this
April 1st.
coming fiscal year on that one. So your total expenditures of $490,340. I'll just skip the fancy little pie chart there. We did shift a larger percentage of the salaries to Public Works. We did a 75-25 split, with 75 being in Public Works, 25 into stormwater in order to put more money back into the system maintenance and repair. It does include the purchase of a mid-size excavator in order to be able to operate the new mulching facility off of Gardendale Road. Currently, we don't have a piece of equipment big enough to stack and pile the brush the way DHEC requires until the tub grinder comes in, so it does include the purchase of that. And really nothing crazy, hopefully council agrees, in the stormwater budget, but that's all I've got on that one, depending on the questions and conversation.
I only had one thing that I forgot to mention. We were talking about utilities for TCUD.
We already did TCUD, you can't go back.
It's regarding the paperless billing.
No, go ahead.
I like how you're advertising, we now have the option for residents to get the paperless billing, but that's also how we were able to contact every single resident in the upper right-hand corner of their bill if there was some alert we wanted to contact them with. Is there a way for them to opt in, give us their information? Are they, the paperless billing is gonna be emailed to them that now we can
No, we've got
attach
their
some sort
email.
of alert that way?
We can email them. We definitely, obviously have their contact info now. We also have the auto dialer, the code red reverse dialer that we can use, if necessary. Yes, ma'am.
I mean, I know some of the things weren't
But as
for
far as the
emergencies.
bill inserts, yeah, if
Yeah.
they're getting the paperless bill, I don't think they get an attachment to it. I mean, it's just, they're not gonna get it unless, and not as familiar with that system. I'm not sure if we can then go in and just send a blast email that's not the bill to that.
It's automatically generated, but I don't know that we could create a distribution list from the people who are signed up for the paperless.
Right.
A lot of times with those messages, Shanae is coming to me to try to figure out what message we can put in that corner.
Right.
So I feel like pushing other forms of communications that we already do, like the Rewind, TKK Connect program, those ways that we get out that information would be honestly a way to kind of shift people over to get a bulk of that information versus just little snippets that we can include there. Philip also started a Facebook page for utilities, so a lot of that information we send out through that too.
Facebook sludge.
We try not to do any pictures of that.
That's next month's issue.
Feature, the feature, yeah.
Feature.
Anything else?
Thank you, sorry.
Thanks, Katie.
Huh?
Just remembered.
And we do have, since you're on the paperless billing, we've got, what, about 170 customers already that have signed up for that?
Not even a ream of paper. Let's go on to the next one.
Okay. I was impressed it was that many that fast. Events, tourism,
Here's what it is.
this is all the fun and games here. Let's see, events. Shit, wrong one. Damn it. Sorry. There we go. Your interest income, $900. Your community events vendors at $3,600. Fall festival revenue at $2,800. Your golf tournament entry fees at $11,000. Sponsorships at $14,626, and then a transfer from HTAX of $42,794, giving you events tourism budget of $75,720. Your 4th of July at $29,000, Fall Festival at $9,000, Holiday Festival at $600, concerts at $16,000, Mayor's Cup golf tournament at $11,000, and your holiday lighting. This is replacing the Christmas lights in the median. Unfortunately, they don't all last the whole year long. And then senior games at $1,620, balancing that budget at $75,720. There's your breakdown. 4th of July, obviously our biggest event, takes up the biggest portion of the budget. 4 concerts out of the year, fall festival, I mean, those are probably our 3 biggest things as far as events go.
Any questions, demonstrations, or manifestations of violence for Charlie on that one?
No.
That's it,
We're done.
right?
The
Hospitality tax.
Hospitality.
Can these people leave? When they're done? They're all sitting here.
They enjoy this.
It's super exciting, right?
I think they're ready to go.
What's Walt got-
Anybody want to sit in for me? I'll go.
You're
what's-
already
What else has
going.
Walt got to do, right?
No,
Walt's got his
Walt.
lunch.
Walt's got lunch and he's all good.
He's got
He
goodies
came
over there.
prepared.
All right, hospitality tax.
There you
go. H-Tax is something
Good.
that has definitely seen a nice uptick.
It has.
It's no idea that dipped ice cream goes from Dairy Queen was that popular, but looking at revenues of $240,000, we may be underscoring that, to be quite honest, based on what our monthly average is coming in right now. Based on that, and this is really probably more for the general public that are playing along at home, we are restricted by by state law as to what we can and cannot spend our spend H-Tax funds on. Salaries for folks working the events, that's where you see a portion of Joey's salary, as well as public safety and maintenance salaries are in that salary line item there. You've got marketing. The uptick there is we've moved the website hosting out of general fund over into here. And that expense was $3,704. There's your transfer to events that we just talked about. Maintenance and repairs at Clubhouse. Because we've gotten to the point where we are with H-Tax, we can spend those funds on a tourist-related facility. That charge there, so we've taken that out of general fund, moved it over to H-Tax, but it does envision, per council's approval, replacing the windows at the bar and restaurant, those old wooden windows. It envisions replacing those with the vinyl. Even looking at doing the tinted to help as far as the heating and cooling and things of that nature. Is what makes up that $116,000. You got your payment for the Rundy Park lights, and then your balance capital reserve at $26,958. Again, balancing that budget at $240,000.
I feel like we just did the lights at Rundy.
We did.
Yeah, we did, but it's a
It's
10-year
payment.
loan.
Payment.
It's payment.
Yeah,
It's
gotta
payment.
pay for it.
It's about a
Darn it.
$200,000+ project.
You had to pay for that?
Yeah, we had to pay.
Anything?
Nothing.
Is the,
Yes, sir.
are the concerts, is that an expense or is that a revenue generator?
Expense.
Expense.
Yeah, it's definitely an expense. I mean, we do get some revenue from the vendors, $75 a pop per show.
It's definitely.
But yeah, I mean, you're with the stage and the band and things like that. Yeah, it's
Staff
golf
time.
golf tournament produces money with the sponsorships and the entry fees and things like that. Without the golf tournament, we would have to most certainly use more H-Tax money to put on the events than the $42,000 that we're transferring over to it.
14,000 from the golf tournament.
Yeah.
Used to be a lot more than that.
Well, Piedmont used to also give us 60,000 instead of 10. So
That accounts for the
Anything else?
I just have regarding Windjammer, I wasn't really sure which portion we were gonna discuss it under.
it would, if council wants to spend money towards a full-time attendant, or really it's going to fall in your Parks and Rec budget, is probably the most appropriate place for that. Every scenario that staff looked at, both Chief Parker, Joey Bleth, and myself, just kicking it around and trying to come up with ideas. It's the simplest, most cost-effective solution is for the police department to continue doing what they're doing. If council were so inclined, my recommendation would be probably another $4,000 put into Parks and Rec overtime for our maintenance staff to come in on Saturdays and Sundays, hitting the park. Right now, especially this time of year when they don't have sports going on, things like that, if there's not a rental at Windjammer, we don't have staff coming in on Saturdays and Sundays. So they clean it Friday before they leave, and then they jump on it again Monday morning. This past weekend, we had a rental all day Saturday, had a big rental all day Sunday. I went to the park about 10:30 Sunday morning, clean as it could be. Yeah, because we've had staff coming in, getting ready for the next rental, things like that. Had we not had rentals and it was just, I know Joey is having conversations with the ski team, hey, kind of help make some announcements, police it a little bit after the ski show, but I think this past Friday was the last ski show, wasn't it? Or is it this coming Friday? It's this Friday is the last ski show. Still got a couple more weeks, before that really kind of dies down. But just in case, you get a lot of people at the ski show, it might be generating, whatever, trash-wise, asking them to, try to help us out. But if we don't have a rental that's scheduled out there, we don't have maintenance staff going out there to do a park cleaning.
So if you had a maintenance person, you're talking about $3,000 or $4,000, what authority do they have?
No, the only if we did that, the only thing they would be doing is coming in Saturday morning, coming in Sunday morning,
Oh, I'm not talking about people.
cleaning
without-
bathrooms, emptying
I'm talking
trash,
about the
moving on.
no parking ticket.
If you did a parking attendant, really they don't have any authority unless they were sworn in as a code enforcement officer or something of that nature. Realistically, what they would be doing is standing at the gate, and if somebody pulls up and they don't have the rental slip or they don't have a sticker, turn around and go. Now, obviously, they could help with trash, things of that nature, but.
Yeah.
I don't know. I mean, we've had it in the past. We still got the same complaints, even when people thought they were great. We still got the same complaints. We've had this complaint at Windjammer for the 17 years I've been here. It comes up at least once a summer. The only thing that I could say.
Seems to be louder this summer than previous summers, though.
Well,
Yeah, I've had a
social
lot of
media and
people-
emails are
Yeah.
more in tune now.
With the dropping off of people, I think that is not necessarily just non-residents being dropped off. I've dropped my own children off there when they're playing with other kids. It's because I don't want to have my car sitting there. I need to go somewhere. So I think that's not necessarily everybody in Timbuktu just dropping off all their families so they can avoid the decal. With the tickets, this is something that I had asked you, is how many of the people actually getting tickets for not having a decal are actually residents? I've actually had a lot of residents now contact me saying they're getting tickets. They just didn't have time to go get the decal.
You got about a 50-50 split between residents and non-residents that are getting ticketed. I wasn't able to pull any data from years prior. I'm going 5-6 years ago. When there was a big demand for hammer it. I want PD down there all day, every day. We had more residents that were flipping out because they had not gotten their parking stickers yet, and they were not appreciative of getting parking tickets. They voiced that concern to us. Last summer, we had there was a very lengthy email exchange with some residents down at Windjammer who wanted us to consider making parts closest to the park as no parking on the street. As we talked through that, it was my understanding is that at least as they emailed back, that would apply to their house guests as well. It wouldn't just be to other folks, and they chose not to. At least that was what was emailed back. Granted, that was a year ago. That is, getting no parking signs and putting them on Kiwi, putting them on Windjammer Drive, back up to a certain point. Not very expensive. Don't know what it corrects. PD goes down there as frequently as they can. But if they're tied up on calls, things of that nature, parking at Windjammer and patrolling Windjammer is not a high priority, but it is definitely a focus. It's definitely on the radar. Chief puts it out to the patrol guys on a constant basis. Reminder, as you're on patrol, go down to Windjammer, check parking stickers, things of that nature. And you can see, I mean, it's, the revenue coming in from parking stickers has definitely jumped a lot higher than it's been in a number of years. You know, I've written 30 some odd, how many,
37 tickets excluding this weekend. We wrote 10 more this weekend.
okay, so,
Okay, so for the time being, without having to change any type of expenses, that's what we're going to, the police department's just going to be responding to calls made by residents.
well, and going down there just on
Like
patrol.
Increased patrols or just.
They're gonna continue to patrol down there. Every time they go down to Windjammer isn't just because they were called. They've got it on the property watch list, they've got it on the patrol list, they are going down there as frequently as they can. But by no means do we have a police officer that's sitting there for 3 hours, 4 hours, things like that. I mean, we just don't. We don't have the manpower to do that. So really, we're looking for, every other solution we came up with is a lot more expensive than both of those two.
Are you gonna be able to contact the groups in charge of TK Connect to see if they would like to get together and
That is,
handle a part of the pickup?
that is on our list for the next Connect get-together. Yes, ma'am.
All right. Great.
Any other questions, demonstrations, manifestations of violence? Hearing none, we're adjourned.
Adjourn. Second. We need a second.
Thank you, guys.